Good morning, let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om al ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikalela ilezwe letu na bantu balu. Musile ukulungu kwe pondo letu. Nkosi sikalela I Afrika, kina abantwana bayo, kokela ikokeli zayo, yeniki upolo I Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning, honourable members. Before we proceed, I would like to remind members about some of the logistical arrangements. As has been our practice to date, honourable members will participate in the sitting of the House, both from here in the chamber with the presiding officer and table staff, and via Microsoft Teams. Our standing rules have accordingly been amended to accommodate such hybrid sittings of the House. Honourable members experiencing challenges in connecting to the sitting are requested to contact the WCPP ICT colleagues who will assist to resolve their connectivity challenges. Honourable members, the quorum requirements for the sitting of the House are provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules, and unless there's an indication of unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and on the hybrid system who are entitled to cast their votes as per the ATC issued on the 11th of August 2020. Members present in the chamber via Microsoft Teams have all the privileges and immunities imparted by law. Members who are considered out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and called to order. Honourable members, in instances where these directives do not cover a particular eventuality, the standing rules must be applied. And in instances where the rules cannot be applied, the ruling by the presiding officer is final. Members, all microphones have been muted, and when an honourable member in the chamber wishes to raise a point of order, such an honourable member may address the presiding officer as expected, but must mute their microphones when they have completed speaking. For members participating in the sitting of the House via Microsoft Teams, you are requested to use the raise hand functionality of the system when you desire to raise a point of order, and I will recognize you. The media have been granted access to this Microsoft Teams meeting as guests of the WCPP. However, I wish to remind members of the press that they may not use the chat room or speak or activate their cameras while the sitting is in progress. Honourable members, language translation services are available in the chamber as usual and on Microsoft Teams via the respective channels. Honourable members participating in the sitting of the House must please access the language translation services via a second device. And if you have earphones available, please use them for the language translations. Honourable members, I wish to remind you that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings, and to this end, I wish to draw your attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. Honourable members, good morning, and to the guests online and in the gallery, welcome to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Honourable members, the Secretary will now read the first order of the day.
Debat oor begrotingspos 1 Premier Weskaapse aansuiveringsbegrotingswetsontwerp.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honourable Premier, Premier Winnie.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Cabinet colleagues, Leader of the Opposition, members of this Provincial Parliament, the DG and staff of this provincial government, special guests, and most importantly, the citizens, the residents of this great province, the Western Cape. Despite catastrophic national failures, the Western Cape, Mr. Speaker, has now become the hope, the only hope for South Africa. Speaker, as we near the end of 2023, we reflect on the highs and lows of the past year. Our province and country have been made to endure another challenging year as a result of continued massive failures by the national government. On Tuesday, it was announced that the contraction of the economy in the third quarter marked fears of a looming technical recession. Stats SA announced that the economic activity declined by 0.2% in the 3 months through to September. That is a decline on almost a 0% growth. That is catastrophic, Mr. Speaker. We have chronic energy crises and a logistics nightmare that is taking its toll on our economy. If I think about how much it is costing us every single day, the logistics failure in our system exacerbated by these power cuts. And of course, in 2023, we saw the worst power cuts ever. And they have been hampering our growth as of today, while our citizens have to fumble in the dark. 322 days of load shedding this year so far. 322 days of load shedding this year. And you know, it almost makes me feel like a Monty Python show when every single time the ANC stands up and makes an announcement that says, this year we'll end load shedding, and vraghisbaar, this year becomes worse than last year. And of course, that's why we are seeing this catastrophic implication for our citizens because of total failure at a national level. Speak on the rare occasion when the lights are on, businesses, investors, and companies are left counting the costs of this ongoing calamity. The cost is counted in the hundreds and thousands of jobs lost due to load shedding. Nearly R1 billion goes down the drain each and every day because of these rolling power cuts. This disaster, sadly now synonymous with South Africa, is exacerbated by ever-increasing electricity prices. So we can't keep the lights on, and what little power we do give is just costing more and more, and that has a knock-on effect to the cost of living. Who suffers the most? The poorest of the poor. Speaker, caught in the midst of these challenges are our residents, many of whom feel abandoned. They look to us in this province for hope, and rightfully so. It is this government's singular obsession to keep delivering for you, the citizens, or our residents. When faced with natural disasters like the September floods or the deadly minibus taxi strike, we act with purpose and urgency, with the need of our residents always front of mind. We lead by delivering the best possible essential services. We are building a fertile jobs ecosystem driven by our Growth for Jobs plan. We are enabling and empowering local governments to help us resolve the energy crisis through our energy resilience program, which is already delivering encouraging results. We all know that in this municipality, Cape Town, and this parliament sits, we already mitigate more than 2 levels of load shedding now. If I look at what's happening in Saldanha Bay, and I'm not talking about yesterday's by-election, I'm talking about the announcement of 100 megawatts for their own resilience with a potential 1,500 megawatts. Ons kan krag gee vir die hele Weskus uit Saldanha Bay. I think about what's happening in George. I think about what's happening in Mossel Bay, what's due to happen very soon in Stellenbosch. That energy resilience program is the hope that this province is giving to South Africa. Our growing provincial economy is the product of a government that cares and responds to the needs of our residents, no matter what. The Western Cape, Speaker, is doing much more with a lot less. Yet even in the face of the perennial issues, the catastrophic energy crisis, alarmingly high unemployment and crime levels, the adversities which have been long in the making are now rearing their ugly heads. This calamitous fiscal crisis forced on us by the failed national government. We still manage to build hope for the future. This hope is embodied in every job we help to create and the most recent quarterly labor force surveys confirmed not only that did we create more jobs between Q3 of 2022 and Q3 of this year than any other province in South Africa, with more than 305,000 new jobs. We have also the lowest unemployment rate. If you listen to the adjustments budget, if you listen to the budget yesterday and the speech by the Minister of Finance, you know, it's the lowest unemployment rate, both narrow and broad, the highest absorption rate, the highest business confidence rate. All of those indicators in this province are those indicators that give citizens hope. We are moving into what I want to say is the next stage of hope, which is this coming season. If I think of the 215 direct flights that are coming into the city of Cape Town or the Cape Town International Airport every single week now in this tourism season, 33,000 international visitors every single day on average. That excludes the thousands and thousands of South Africans who will come to this province for their holidays. And of course, the thousands and thousands of jobs who are created over this next season because of tourism. But of course, I look at agriculture and the potential of around 20% growth because of really good rains. Sometimes maybe in some parts of our province, the rains were too good because we had severe floods. But the good rains, we expect a 20% growth in potential exports of our agricultural products, as long as we can get another failed ANC mandate, our ports to operate properly, we will be able to reap the rewards in jobs at the end of the day. Once again, this province giving South Africa hope. We have maintained and improved our already impeccable track record for good governance. This is confirmed by all of our departments and entities, Speaker, receiving unqualified audits in the 22-23 financial year. Speaker, the best audit results ever in this province. And thank you very much to the Cabinet colleagues and to your departments and your entities. The best audit outcomes in South Africa ever. That again shows you that this province is the hope for the future and the hope for our country. Speaker, as we reflect on the hard work this government puts into making a difference in the lives of our residents, we must also be candid. We have a long road ahead of us. Unemployment and crime remains a deadly reality for too many of our vulnerable residents, let alone those in the rest of South Africa. Levels of unemployment and crime are still intolerably high. Speaker, just this last week, I joined the Minister for Police Oversight and Community Safety, and we joined neighborhood watches in Mitchell's Plain. The neighborhood watch in Mitchell's Plain that we walked with pointed out cable thefts that take away street lamps that exacerbate crime levels. We walked with volunteers who give of their time, one of 17,500 volunteers in this province, people who spend their time in their communities making sure that we are building a safer province. And I want to say thank you very much to them. But what we also did was we spent some time, Minister of Health, Minister Mbomba, in your hospital in Mitchell's Plain on a Saturday night, 10 o'clock at night, in the trauma unit, seeing the impact on our citizens of gangsterism, of crime, and how perhaps your mom, your daughter, your brother, who's sick and going to one of our hospitals and who has to get pushed to the back of the queue because of gangsterism and crime. While we were there, 3 stab victims came in, almost one after the other in that 3/4 of an hour. And all the doctors have to be rushed in, surgeries, you name it, to save that life of a stab victim. And my message, this is the impact of budgets, Speaker, the impact of budgets. And my message to our citizens this season is a festive season is a time for celebration. It's a time for rest and recuperation. It's also a time for jobs. It's a time for the economy. But it is also a time that we need every single citizen to take responsibility this festive season. Be safe on our roads. Be safe in our communities. Look after our communities. Take responsibility for your own self and for others. Let's make sure that this is the safest season yet. And we want to play our part in building that partnership going forward. That's why safety is such a critical issue for me and for this government. Speaker, I also want to talk about the implications of the budget cuts, the in-year budget. And that's why we are saying to our national government, give us our 1.1 billion or we'll see you in court. We have declared this intergovernmental dispute because we have a contract that is an approved budget that's a contract for this year, signed, debated, and agreed to, becomes a contract. And in here, they've broken that contract. And they expect 1.1 billion rand to be found in here, and they expect us to take that away from the very services that our citizens deserve. We are not going to cut those services to our citizens. We are going to hold the national government accountable to that very contract. And that's why we have declared this dispute. Unfortunately, the first meeting in this process was not able to be had. That was on Monday this week. The Minister of Finance was called away urgently to some other business. I presume it was to go and defend territory against the sheriff at Latuli House. But that is the ecosystem and the environment we live in. The ANC are busy defending their wickets while the sheriff takes away their furniture, computers, and the water cooler. But that is synonymous with exactly what's happening in our country. We will go and fight for that 1.1 billion because our citizens deserve those services in our hospitals, in our schools. Our social workers need to be empowered to do the work that they do. We need to carry on growing for jobs in our province. And we will fight for that money because that money is the money that the citizens deserve. Speaker, those cuts, the implication of those cuts, infrastructure in our province is being cut by 372 million. Health services by 136 million. Education by 248 million. Roads and road maintenance by 52 million. Human settlements by 214 million. Agriculture by another 20 million. These cuts are unacceptable because we have a contract. We have a contract and we need to deliver on that contract. And we will not tolerate having that contract broken. We will fight for our citizens. Speaker, we cannot afford to divert funding away from critical services due to an irresponsible and incapable and failed national government. Speaker, we stand here today because we are at that stage in our contractual agreement where we have an opportunity to legally adjust the budget, where we have taken responsibility as a government, and you will see in our documents, we are putting those cuts in the system. But we are taking this to the very end. We'll get the courts to decide. But in the interim, we obviously must approve because we believe in the rule of law. We must approve the processes, and that's why we are here today with this 2023-24 budget adjustment. In aggregate, the Department of the Premier has a reduced budget of 16.392 million rand. And this amount represents the net results of several additions and reductions applied to the department's main budget baseline of 2.047 billion. The budget realignment, first of all, on energy and the blueprint for the Western Cape's drive to maintain the province's energy security through our energy resilience program, the rollout of energy projects, and we have experienced some delays and hence the need to realign our current budget for this critical area of massive failure of the ANC. And as a result of specifically tender process, again, where we need to bring about changes, but in the interim, tender processes that do not deliver the required outcomes, we've had to delay beyond our March allocation and move over into April of next year. And so we've reallocated 57 million rand of the budget. The department also had to surrender 7.5 million on the integrated resource plan. This is actually a positive because it will be resulting in a saving, because we are looking at outside funding to come and help us with building that resource plan, which gives clarity to the industry on what our plan is within the province, not a national plan, because of failure at that level. We will have a resource plan here at the provincial level. We also have had to delay 9 million rand in budget because we are battling to get the demand side management program finalized due to delays in getting a national outline. I must say that the minister has attended a few of our energy committees, but of late in the last two, we haven't managed to get that finality, and we can't take that risk. So we will defer that 9 million rand over to next year. We're also shifting budgets money between votes, 36.094 million rand in budgetary shifts. This is in the IT support for police oversight and community safety of 1.3 million. Microsoft Azure cloud computing services and technical support for health and wellness of 28.821 million. The program and project management resources for transversal enterprise content management, ECM, of 7.440 million. And 2.7 million is shifted to the Department of Infrastructure, and this is for organizational development, or for the units move to an alternative and more cost-effective accommodation. Speaker, as we prepare to enter a new year and faced with a host of challenges, which are outlined in the beginning and more, I ask that this government and appeal to the citizens to maintain hope. We are the resilient province, blessed with diversity and a can-do spirit, which I believe is unmatched in this country. We will not abandon you, the citizen or the resident. You are the core of this government's work, and we will continue to service you with dignity and humility. Your resilience and support help make us a better government, and we thank you for allowing us to serve you. We remain citizen obsessed. We remain a government for you, the citizen. And armed and equipped with data and evidence, and backed by the Western Cape's strong, stable, and sound track record of good governance, we can better prepare ourselves today for the need of the future. To our partners, we have come a long way and still have some distance to travel in realizing this province's full potential. Speaker, I would like to thank the DG and our colleagues, both in the Department of the Premier, for the work that's gone into not only our work with national and some of our fights and some of our successes, but also just the work in realigning this budget. Thank you to our colleagues in Treasury, but of course to all of our colleagues across each and every department, all of the public servants in our province who go beyond or above and beyond every single day. I also want to specifically thank the team in my office for the long hours and the hard work that they put in, also in service of the citizens of this province. And so, Speaker, I table these adjustments here today in this debate and look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. I now recognize the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Dugmore.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and also to the Premier. I think all of us know that we are discussing these adjustments in the context of serious fiscal challenges and a number of other challenges, some of which the Premier has referred to. The Premier argued that this particular government is bringing hope. I'm talking about the DA government. He argues that they are bringing hope to the people of the Western Cape. Now, what I want to say in the context of the post-COVID period, the need to rebuild, the constraints that we face, often there's a debate about whether the response to this is to actually understand that more people are unemployed, more people are vulnerable, and the need to actually focus on the security net. Obviously, all of us want to grow an economy that is inclusive, but in a situation like this, I would argue that what gives hope to South Africans, including the people of the Western Cape, is the fact that our national government launched a temporary employment relief scheme, the TERS scheme, with 5.7 million workers benefiting from that in terms of the wage subsidy. I would also argue that what gives people hope are not the words of the Premier, but the fact that the social relief of distress grant amounting to 350 Rand per month, which has benefited nearly 10 million people, that gives hope to people.
Order, members.
I would argue that the fact that 2.2 million young people between the ages of 15 and 24 are in the post-school education and training sector. And I would also say that the investment of 32 billion Rand in the Presidential Employment Stimulus Initiative, which started in 2020 and has actually benefited 1.2 million young people. I would also argue that the more than 550,000 workers who are now actually part owners of companies through broad-based economic empowerment and share equity schemes are not only getting a salary, but are also actually getting a dividend at the end of the year. Those are the real things that give people hope. But when, for instance, the DA across the road votes against the national health insurance system, a system to actually cater for the whole population for health at the point of service, and this Democratic Alliance votes against a system of national health insurance, they say and they show that they are against the poor. When they vote against, as they have done, the Appropriation Bill, which replaces the 1967 Act and actually provides and will assist land redistribution, not as the DA wants to imply with willy-nilly expropriation without compensation. In certain cases, there will be no compensation. That is what is needed. But the DA voting against it does not provide hope. And that's why, despite, and I will be the first to admit it, despite the pathologies that we as a movement, the African National Congress, have and are dealing with, that still gives people hope in the African National Congress, not in the Democratic Alliance. So,
order, members.
What doesn't give hope to people is the fact that here in the Western Cape, as I indicated in the speech earlier on this week, that when it comes to ownership, part and transport, ownership of urban land, 70% of urban land is owned by white South Africans in the Western Cape. Colored people, who constitute 48% of the people of this province, own only 10% of urban land. And African people, who constitute 32%, only own 3.5%. That is simply not sustainable. But since the DA took power, there's been no political will to give hope in regard to land distribution. DA talks about a whole of government approach and talks about crime and gangsterism. The reality is that gangsterism in this province has got worse under the DA because there hasn't been an integrated focus. You can talk about neighborhood watches moving around, and we support that. We are, as you know, concerned that the CPFs are still not getting the support that they need, but that isn't the only solution. You have to get communities involved. You have to get young people involved and give them hope. The reality is when you go to Mitchell's Plain and you see the number of young people of college age who are on a street corner, that is the crisis of gangsterism and drugs, which your government, Premier, has actually neglected. You want to say, and there's ample evidence that in terms of this adjustment,
Order, members.
There's no penalization of the Western Cape. When it comes to police ratios, and I'll give the figures to the MEC because he wanted to contest that. There's no penalization of the Western Cape when it comes to the allocation of these resources. So yes, when we look at the budget, we note a decrease of 16 million. And as the ANC, we definitely cannot, will not, and will vote against this adjustment. Suddenly 81 million is found from strategic management, to be adjusted. So clearly that was in the first place just cushioning the resource, but suddenly it's no longer needed. The exchange rate, obviously that has affected our ability to obtain Microsoft licenses. But why is the DA so silent when clear evidence has emerged that the banks have specifically manipulated and weakened the rand? And that is what is actually making us pay more. Yes.
Order.
You must read the competition.
Order.
Commission. You must read the competitions commission.
Order,
Why
members.
Bank charter pay
Order.
an admission of guilt? And the DA
Order.
wants to protect the banks, to stand against the opening of a state bank because they are not prepared to actually take on. So that is a real issue.
Order, members. Order.
39
Order.
million.
Honorable Dagmo, please take your seat. Order, members. Honorable Kama, is that a point of order? Honorable Mayor, I'll recognize you afterwards. Honorable Kama.
Thank you very much, Speaker. We're now really struggling to hear Member Dagmo.
Order.
The leaders really have much more time to contribute to the debate. I think they must just wait for their time.
Absolutely. Honorable members, can I just caution you, please do not drown out the speaker on the floor. Interjections are allowed, but the minute it drowns out the speaker, it becomes a problem. Honorable Van Vogel, I'm also speaking to you. Honorable Minister Meyer, is that a point of order?
He always has bogus points of order.
Order, members. Honorable Meyer, Minister Meyer.
Honorable
Not a
Speaker,
point of order.
I'd very much like to know if the honorable member will give you permission to pay his salary into a state bank.
Honorable Minister Meyer, that is not a point of order. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, you may continue.
Thank you. As I said, the comedian never comes with a proper point of order. Now, 39 million in terms of improvement of conditions of service. Now, what we have here is a DA government who doesn't want to respect national bargaining for all public service workers, happening, yes, in a very difficult environment. But in the legislature, Speaker, as you would well know, there is discretion as to what our staff in this legislature get paid. And why is it that members of staff in the Western Cape legislature get paid less than other provinces? And you know why that is? It's because the DA ideologically doesn't even support a minimum wage. The minimum wage is now between 4 and 4,500. They have in their policy document.
Honorable Dagmo, your time has expired. Please conclude.
1,800 rand. So they do not give hope, and that's why the ANC will always give hope.
Thank you very
to the
much, Honorable
majority,
Dagmo. Your
because
time has
despite our
expired.
issues,
Thank you.
we
Honorable
managed.
Dagmo, please take your seat. Order, members. Thank you very much, Honorable Dagmo. I now recognize Honorable Fry.
Honourable Speaker, it is my privilege to deliberate on the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill, Vote 1, the Department of the Premier, in this debate. However, as with other votes in this bill, the picture is not rosy at all. We are now seeing the effects of poor management of parastatals, a shrinking economy, and its effect on the currency, constricting procurement procedures, and a wage settlement that is simply unaffordable. These factors have led to a drastic budget cuts across the board, and this vote has unfortunately not been spared. By way of introduction, let me state that the adjustment appropriation for this vote has decreased by nearly 16.4 million to 2.030 billion, as the Premier outlined. This might not seem like much, but a deep dive into the figures will show that, for the most part, we're telling Peter that you must contain costs so that Paul can be paid what was agreed with him. What is ironic, though, is that in effect, Peter and Paul are twins, And when you do the sums, they both lose out because there's less money for both in real terms. So let's look at this vote in greater detail. As stated in the budget book, the aim of the Department of the Premier is to enable and lead a capable Western Cape government by institutionalizing a culture of innovation and collaboration for improved services for the people of the Western Cape. Given the current fiscal constraints that are ravaging the public service, I would say that this department is doing its level best to execute that aim under very, very trying circumstances. We must remember that this department, through its 6 programs, provides the bedrock for the rest of the administration to execute their various mandates. Honourable Speaker, there are a few major points that are vital to note in this budget. The first is that there is an unavoidable expenditure of 17 million rand within the Centre for E-Innovation owing to the weakening of the rand-dollar exchange rate, which has affected the procurement of Microsoft software licenses. The stipulated exchange rate in the contract was 17 rand to the dollar. However, it ballooned to 18.4 rand to the dollar, thus necessitating the 17 million rand expenditure. While this is perhaps a minor detail in the grand scheme of things, it represents the hand this department and this government have been dealt. Our failing currency is a direct result of ANC's failed economy. And once again, we are seeing a hard-working department hamstrung by the decision made at national level. However, in Program 4, it's not all doom and gloom. 3.5 billion has been allocated via environment from Program 5.5, which is corporate communication, to Program 4.2, which is strategic ICT services for the new Western Cape Government Digital Experience Platform, which demonstrates that even in these difficult times, this department is still serious about achieving its aim of improved services for the people of the Western Cape. As alluded to in my introduction, one of the biggest environments is from Program 4.4, Connected Government and Infrastructure Services. 12 million could not be spent owing to CETA procurement delays. But thankfully, that money was used to fund the shortfall on the Microsoft licenses owing to the weakening rand and general price increases. As far as shifting of funds between votes is concerned, the biggest amount would be the 37.5 million rand allocated to the Centre for E-Innovation, of which 28.8 million was shifted from vote 6, Health and Wellness, for Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing and Technical Support Services, again as outlined by the Premier. Honourable Speaker, when we look at the expenditure trends of the department across the 6 programs, the overwhelming factor is that the effect of the increased 2023 wage agreement, it's clear that this negotiated settlement is just not financially viable. Now, the national government wants to pass the buck, literally, to the provinces, forcing us into a corner where we have had to fend for ourselves. Is it any wonder why the intergovernmental dispute has been declared? I think not. Couple that with the effect of the weakened rand and constricting procurement processes, you have a recipe for disaster. We now see this government fighting to maintain its high standard of service delivery in the face of overwhelming odds. The stakes could not be higher. The people of the Western Cape will remember who delivered a better life to them and who failed to do so. However, Honourable Speaker, there's a question that must be asked. And that question is, what if? What if we had a national government that actually acts in the best interest of its citizens at all times? What if we had a president who was decisive in dealing with corruption and acting on the findings of the Zondo report, held his cabinet to account, ensuring that service delivery occurs as close to the people as possible? What if we had a national government who were good stewards of the people's money, strengthened parastatals through public-private partnerships, and jettisoned those who are no longer viable in their current form? What if the national government was actually serious about growing the economy so that every citizen has an equitable chance of creating a better life for themselves and their families, with the poor being more and more involved in the economy and reducing the Gini coefficient? Speaker, What if this provincial government could govern nationally? Given the effects of this government over the term and previously, we can make a pretty good guess as to what would happen. There'd be more money available in the economy, a greater emphasis on service delivery, a crackdown on crime, more jobs created, and a better life would not just be a pipe dream. That better life would be underpinned by the values of freedom, fairness, opportunity, and diversity. And when that government works, then the national government would collaborate with capable provincial and local governments to bring necessary targeted and required services as close to the people as possible. But Honourable Speaker, Honourable Dagmo speaks about the ANC and them bringing hope. I want to quote from a letter from the now former Comrade Mavuso Msimang, who registered, and he said, for several years now, the ANC has been racked by endemic corruption with devastating consequences on the governance of the country and the lives of poor people, whom they continue to be so many. I want to quote, I want to paraphrase the Star Wars trilogy, where Princess Leia said, help us, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. On the ground, people are telling the DA, help us, you're our only hope. So therefore, Honourable Speaker, let me close. Let me close by noting 2 points. In order for our nation to rise from the ashes of riding the fiscal cliff, we need regime change, and that will come in 2024. And number 2, capable governments, provincial and local, must be given the necessary powers to deliver commensurate services to the people. Thus, the Western Cape Powers Bill must be supported and ratified. At this point, Honourable Speaker, I'd like to thank the administration of the Standing Committee on the Premier and Constitutional Matters, especially our procedural officer, Ms. Washima Kamish-Ahmad, for their sterling work through this year, and especially through this appropriation budget. Speaker, not only do we support the voters of the Democratic Alliance, we support the intergovernmental dispute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honourable Fry. Order, members. Order. I now recognize the Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much to the Leader of the Opposition and the Chair of the Committee for your inputs. I will start first with the Honourable Fry. First of all, thank you very much as a committee chair for the processes you lead and how you lead the committee. We really do appreciate it. In your input, you ask, what if? And that's a really good question. And I enjoyed what you had to say, because, of course, I think that's what the citizens of our country are asking. What if? And what of? What of the last 30 years? And how has it changed the lives of our citizens? I again referred myself to Monty Python earlier on. And, of course, I think it is exactly like a Monty Python show if you think about what's happening in the national leadership of the ANC. So what if the ANC get voted out next year in May? And I think that's the real question. When the ANC get voted out next year in May, we will start to see a better life for all. And that is the irony. The chair referred also to this resignation letter, and I want to just quote one part of it that says, the ANC is on the verge of losing power. That is the real what if. The ANC is on the verge of losing power in this country. And of course, if last night's by-election is anything to go by,
Order.
if last night's by-election is anything to go by, Speaker, those last 2 seats in the back corner of this House, Speaker, are the 2 seats that the ANC should be getting their measuring tapes for. I'm sure all of these members are brushing up on their retirement policies. because quite frankly, there is going to be a different opposition in this House next year, and it's not going to be the ANC.
Order.
I'm always willing to take a wager.
Honorable Premier, please take your seat. Honorable members on both sides of the House, both sides are drowning out the speaker. I'm struggling to hear the speaker, the Premier. Can I please ask you to please allow the Premier to respond? You've all had an opportunity, those on the speakers list, to make their input. It's now the Premier's opportunity to respond, and it's only correct that the Premier has an opportunity to respond to the inputs made by the speakers. Honorable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And if I could respond lastly to that last interjection and the wager, which the Honourable Leader of the Opposition spoke about. I'm always happy to take a wager on next year. And I've got this measuring tape here. And it reminds me of a while ago when I was actually sitting where the Honourable Member sits. And I had a meeting with the then Minister of Finance. His name was Garth Strachan in this province. I remember going to his office with a tape measure and measuring up that office. And of course, remember that time, that was as the ANC were losing power here in this province. It's the same feeling for what the ANC are doing at a national level, and they're going to lose power in the same way. But to help the ANC here at the moment, when I look at this tape measure, kind of ANC take about that much space, and then I go there, it's going to probably take about that much space after the election. So I think that they should go and have a look at their. They should, Speaker, go and have a look at their retirement plans and, of course, their pension funds.
Order.
And
Order, members.
I sincerely think that they should actually be worried about their pension funds, because and now I must get to the Leader of the Opposition and his inputs. Even the pension funds of the ANC members who are not going to be returning are under pressure. Why? Because of the ANC themselves and their shocking government, or their failure in South Africa, even puts their own pension funds at risk, and they're not seeing the growth in their pension funds because of their failure. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Doug Moore, and he started off in a discussion around hope and talking about this province and the hope that we bring to South Africa versus the ANC. And he used a word, he was talking about another program in the ANC. He said, and the ANC launched a program. They're damn good at launching programs. There was a time a few months ago where I was asked, in actual fact, the Minister Bradell went along to, again, the launch of the Clan William Dam. The Clan William Dam has been launched, I think, 5 times now. Because in 2007, when they officially launched the expansion of the Clan William Dam, and every election after that, they still have further launches, I said, I'm refused to go. I'm not going for a big meet and greet, massive tent, invite everybody, cut a ribbon and launch the dam. We've done it too many times already. That's the epitome of the ANC. They launch things. In the DA, we don't do that. The DA works. So we get things done. We don't launch, we get things done. The ANC talks about grants, and they are all excited about the grants. We talk about jobs. And of course, you need to have safety nets and grants in an ecosystem. You need to have them. But it's a transition to a job.
Order.
They focus on saying, let's get the whole of the economy on grants, no one in jobs.
Order, members.
When are they going to launch a plan that ends youth unemployment? That's what they should do, not a grant system. Jobs. Focus on jobs, Mr. Speaker. And in actual fact, what he spoke about in launch and TERS, I saw last year, the TERS program, yesterday, at least one of the people who stole the TERS money was convicted yesterday with 135. But the money they launch gets stolen by their own very comrades. Every time they launch something, it's a plan for their own people in their own system to steal the money.
Order.
Speaker, that doesn't help the citizens one iota, and that is exactly why the ANC is failing. And of course, the honourable leader of the opposition spoke about the NHI. You know, when you read the policy document at the very beginning, it tells you that you have to have a minimum of 3% GDP growth to even think about it. And they then still go ahead, like everything that they do, they go ahead despite every single input into this NHI that says it is going to fail, like everything else has failed in this country. They keep on doing it, the same thing over and over again, and it continues to fail. This will fail. Well, of course, it's actually not even going to get started because it will be challenged in court. In actual fact, this government, we will also challenge this, and we will send the president our documentation today to say that he must not sign this thing into law. We must challenge it because it is going to fail. It is going to fail the citizens. And it would be really good if they decided to use some of the comment and put a universal healthcare system, which we put forward on the table. And that's why we are the province of hope, because we show the alternate, we get things done, this province works, and it changes people's lives. And it's interesting, how even within the ANC, you start to see ANC people saying, oh, but hang on a second, why don't we come and try this? So although Lesotho has not used the correct legislative framework, and that's why Becky Cele won't give his new project any firearm licenses, and that's why the Premier of Gauteng says, Becky Cele, your days are numbered in a public meeting, because they're having this big fight. But his problem was he wasn't using the right legislation. But again, he's saying, but hang on a second, let's come and try something different. Now, that's the first time I've started to see some change. We need to see more of that. But the ANC have failed. They've lost it. We still hear a state bank. I think the first thing would be the real test. The real test would be the ANC setting up a state bank and taking their pension money and putting it into that bank. That would be the perfect test, because I promise you their pension money would be stolen within days. Within days, it would fail. I've got no doubt, just like NHI is going to fail. Just like everything the ANC touches fails. Energy. How many times have they said energy and electricity and load shedding will end this year? For 15 years, they've been saying it every single year. Totally failed. This province, we get things done. We create hope. We've got an energy plan that's making a difference, and you can feel it in the measurement. We're making a difference. Transnet. Oh, my goodness. Transnet. Unbelievable how it is failing South Africa. Every single SOE in this country is failing South Africa. SASSA, the most vulnerable of our citizens, and they can't get that right. In the NCOP, I actually made a suggestion. I think it would be the perfect thing to try, just like putting your pension fund or your pension money into a state-owned bank in this country. It would be stolen within seconds. I think that they should pass a law that says the minister in charge of SASSA and the administration in charge of SASSA only get their salaries once all the beneficiaries have been paid that month. How would that work? You would suddenly start seeing people getting paid. Jobs. They have failed dismally because we have the highest youth unemployment rate in the world. They can't get their programs to work, and they can't turn the economy around. The ANC have failed dismally. Safety. I mean, I listened to the Honourable Nkondlo, and she talks about extortion, in her interjection. And I listened to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition when he talks about Mitchell's Plain, and he talks about safety. And I could see while he was talking about safety, in the back of his mind, he was talking about safety, and he was going like, oh, but the constitutional mandate actually rests with the Minister of Police, the criminal justice system, and both of those sit at a national level and not at a provincial level. But now he's not trying to drink the Kool-Aid. They have failed totally. And in policing, we have the 20-year high on murder. 27,000 murders last year, and Becky Cele just carries on as if it's not an issue. 27,000 people in this country. He should have fallen on his sword a long time ago. He should have been fired a long time ago. The deployment of police officers to this province, when I became the Premier, was just under 20,000 officers. We should be 25,000 officers and perhaps even more because of the population growth in this province. But we're sitting at 16,500 officers deployed to this province. Why? Because the ANC don't care. They have failed. They have lost it a long time ago. Health, education. And then they talk about the exchange rate. The exchange rate is a direct reflection of the ability of the national government to manage our financial affairs in this country. One of the worst debt, fixing it. One of the worst debt ratios around. And what happens? It just gets worse. Now, instead of making tough choices around this budget, what do? They keep driving massive cars. They keep on having lavish events. I went to a police awards event the other evening, and the top performing police officers, which have to be recognized, they do an amazing job despite massive pressure. So they get their certificate, recognition. Thank you so much. Proper award. But what else do they get? TV sets and microwaves and where on earth? It's unbelievable. It's like there's no budget problem. There's no tomorrow. It's just, I can't believe it. It's just like the ANC, they're on the Titanic and it moer al die pad onder toe, and they just don't stop. They just keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. It is not sustainable whatsoever, not sustainable. And of course, the real litmus test was last night, where they totally lost an ANC ward to the EFF. They totally lost it to the EFF. The EFF are on track to become the official opposition in this province.
Order.
The ANC are going to be relegated to the back door.
Order, members.
Because of one thing. They are a total failure. A total failure. Everything they touch fails. Doesn't matter what it is. And of course, the right thing to do in this country is to vote them out. That is the right thing to do. So, what if we vote out the ANC in South Africa, then the Western Cape Hope can become the South African Hope. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable. Thank you very much, honourable members. Honourable members, that concludes the debate of this vote. I'm going to allow a couple of minutes if there's officials from the department that would like to join. Members, the House is not suspended. Can I please ask that you maintain the decorum of the House? Order, members. Order. Honourable members, please, the House is not suspended. And I please ask your indulgence for the decorum of the House. Right. Thank you very much. Minister, are you ready? Thank you very much, honourable members. The secretary will read the second order of the day.
Debat oor begrotingspos 11 landbou, Weskaapse aanstuivingsbegrotingswetsontwerp.
Thank you very much. I recognize the honourable minister, Minister Meyer. Order.
Honourable Speaker, honourable members, members of the Cabinet, honourable leaders of various political parties, honourable members of the legislature. Honourable Speaker, I rise today to table the Western Cape Department of Agriculture's adjustment budget for 2023, vote 11. Honourable Speaker, when I tabled the main budget of 960,165 million on the 28th of March earlier this year, I highlighted that the agricultural sector inspires hope. This was confirmed this week, or rather last week, when Stats SA announced the findings of the agricultural survey for 2022. The survey, so this is not hope in abstract terms, this is not hope in hypothetical terms. This is hope in the real evidence-based terms, and the survey confirms that the Western Cape is responsible for 26% of South Africa and the related industries, and employment contributes 19% of the income generated through sales and goods of services in agriculture. Why is this significant, Mr. Kama? It's because South Africa, the Western Cape, is 10% of the geographical size, 10% of the population, and we box in 26% of that landscape, double the size. The total income generated from South Africa's agriculture-related services in the country, thank you for all the other provinces, grew by 11% in 2022, having increased from 408 billion to 450 billion in 2022. The Western Cape contribution to that in terms of the service industry is 20%, Mr. Kama, Honorable Kama, through you, 10% of the size of South Africa, 10% of the population, but we generate agriculture 20% of that. In 2022, the Western Cape accounted for 26% of the national employment in agriculture and the related services industry. Through the Speaker, Honourable Member Kama, the Western Cape is 10% of the economy of South Africa, 10% of the population, but when it comes to the employment, we generate 26%, double the size of what is expected from us. Thank you to all the farmers, the agri workers, the producers, because agri job numbers grew by 12.4%. The next best province is the Free State. Today, I return to this House, Honourable Speaker, to place before you an adjusted budget and to confirm that agriculture is creating hope. Through the Speaker, to Honourable Member Kama, hope means ithemba, it means higher opportunities for people to excel. We are excelling in this province, as the Premier just confirmed. I also want to provide you with details, Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition, to the adjustments to the estimates of the provincial expenditure of the Western Cape Department of Agriculture. Honourable Speaker, I now table the rollovers from 2022-23. It's about 11.572 million and are allocated as follows: 3.744 million towards equipment for the wine cellar. Honourable Member Speaker, through you to Honourable Member Kama, you will know that 90% of all the wine cellars in South Africa are based in the Western Cape. Honourable Member Kama, when you at Christmas celebrate the fruits of the wine and the glass that you raise, please remember that those winemakers studied at Altenburg, the oldest agricultural training college on the African continent.
Do it responsibly.
Do it responsibly. And please support this budget, the adjustment budget, because 3.7 million will go to the wine cellar at Altenburg so that you can enjoy the fruits of our labor. Honourable Chair, 943,000, very important. On a more serious note, Mr. Kama, 943,000 will go towards river protection and hiring of labor for alien clearing, very important. 3.6 million towards the implementation and the update of the agricultural commodity production. 1.53 million towards diagnostic tests, very important. To also do an analysis and the testing of the wool and the wool quality, and the procurement of office for computer equipment. Also for 278,000 towards the procurement of farm equipment and computer equipment. You will know that we have 7 research farms. They need some of this equipment. 423,000 towards commitments relating to agriculture operating services and the procurement of office and computer equipment, 970,000 speaker towards the procurement and services to conduct training at the college and to purchase some laptops. Honorable Speaker, revenue retention for 2022-2023 total 6.940 million is allocated as follows. And thank you, Honorable my accounting officer and the Mr. Floris Huishamer for the work that you've done, because 2 million for the relocation of the refurbishment of the new export office in Ruland Street. Through you, Speaker, to Mr. Kama. Mr. Kama, you like Nyama? Now, this office is the office for the certification of exports. When you eat that Nyama, we test it, we certified that you are healthy, because the Minister of Health and myself make sure it's called One Health, so that when you eat the Nyama, you mustn't worry about the safety. This is the Western Cape, a province of hope. The Nyama will be safe, but this budget you must support. This is the reason. Because we will now give 2 million rand for the move, and the current office, export certification office, is in Millerton. We bring it closer to your place of work, will now be in Ruland Street. I'm going to invite Mr. Pet Maran so that he can also see that the Nyama that you eat are safe. That office will be here in Ruland Street. Mr. Pet Maran must support this office and must support this budget, because this office will do meat safety. If you reject this budget, then I've got a problem with Mr. Kama having his Nyama for Christmas. 3.4 million to provide for student meals and to facilitate the education and training. I think we all support training in this house. Thank you for that. Honorable Speaker, there are unfortunately unforeseeable and unavoidable expenditure, and therefore in this adjustment budget, 5 million rand is allocated towards flood damage support. Honorable Speaker, sadly, conditional grants will be cut as the Premier has indicated. The national government has reduced the conditional grants to the department by 11.065 million. The chairperson of the standing committee, Mr. Andrikus van der Westhuizen, will speak to that, because 9 million will impact directly on the comprehensive agricultural support grant targeting black farmers. Honorable Member Pat Maran, every year for 5 years asking me about that. There's got the answer. His government is cutting the grant for black farmers. Reprioritization, the in-year reduction of budget meant that the department had no other option but to reprioritize 47.806 million in its current budget. 15 million had to be aligned to meet current priorities. A further 29.306 million had to be reprioritized towards the improvement of the conditioned services. Following the unfunded salary increase the national government has burdened the province with. And her name, Honorable Speaker, is, I come to it now, because she was the Minister of DPSA, Faith Muthambi. She was in charge of this crisis. I'm not going to speak about her first name, but I have no faith in this government led by the ANC. She caused this crisis, approved salary increases, and then not budget for it, not consulting with the National Treasury. The National Treasury was against this. I was in the meeting. They said, what the hell are you talking about? And they agreed it cannot happen. There was even a mandate committee. The minutes were wrong. But this is the result of people not exercising excellence in government. And now, as a result of this, we have to reprioritize. Reprioritization simply means, in financial terms, take money away from where it is needed the most and reprioritize it. And this is a crisis caused by the national government. But as Honorable Member Chris Fry said, what if there's a new government in South Africa? All of this is going to stop in the union buildings. Where is that measurement I need to measure my curtains in the office, in the union buildings.
Honourable Minister, can I remind you to speak to me?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Chief. Whip.
Order, members. Order, members.
Premier's asked me which office I want, room 303 in the union buildings.
Yes.
Chair, Honourable Member Baku Vos, I will conclude because I think you got irritated by the fact that we are a new government in waiting. So I conclude, Honourable Speaker, despite the budget cuts, I have full confidence in the Department of Agriculture led by a very able, competent, excellent head of my department, Dr. Mughala Sebopetse, excellent senior managers, excellent CFO to continue to deliver high quality service to the agriculture sector of the Western Cape. The quality of those services was demonstrated by the recent report on the quality of the post-settlement support and land reform received by the Western Cape Department of Agriculture. And we have on record, Toko Dudiza, the National Minister, the Honourable Minister, confirmed that in terms of land reform projected by the ANC government as a 90% failure. Independent evaluation done by this department has now confirmed on record independent 83% success rate of land reform. Mr. Peter de Villiers, Mr. Peter de Villiers, for your attention. Okay, you write a letter to Patricia de Lille. But 83% success rate for land reform, 90% failure rate of the ANC. That speaks to itself. Our farmers, our producers, and our agri workers are resilient. So let me conclude in the words of Bruce Whitfield. He said, thank God for farmers. I want to add thank God to agri workers. I want to add thank you to producers, and I want to add thank you to rural communities. Honourable Speaker, I now table the Department of Agriculture's 2023 adjusted budget of 954.125 million for consideration and debate in this House. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognize the Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Speaker, and good morning to the Premier. Good mornings to MECs. So when the MEC spoke about Polisani Solutions in the independent report that they made available and the 83% of success rate, you didn't speak about the number of farms, the research that have been done. You haven't spoke about that. And also you didn't say or tell us that on all those farms that you have done the research, plus farms, a national program. You didn't tell us that. You didn't tell us about the more than 200 farmers that were not part of that research that would have contributed to the failure of success. And the support that you are giving is PSS, post-settlement support. You are absent when it comes to pre-settlement support. You are not there. You choose not to be there. We spoke about the budget for the future. Whose future? I came to you, MEC, speaking to you, in this house and informed you about full flame. A farmer that have cut the electricity of farm workers, even cut their water. And up till today, you are not there. You are not there. In 2019, for instance, when a Smith farmer and Stellenbosch were killed, and today we know that his wife has been charged. No other person, his wife and an investigator, police officer, has been charged. We set up a committee that have to deal with that particular issues. A young boy was killed in Matsikama not so long ago. We haven't heard you spoke about that. We haven't seen you go to court and oppose bail for a farmer that have killed a young boy. And you spoke about a future for who? You spoke about, and you've compared government, the percentages, national. But when you ask you about how many land in the hands of black farmers in this province, you tell us in this house you don't know. when you spoke about the percentages of exports through this province, out of this province, we ask you how many black farmers have contributed to that. You tell us you don't know. The Honorable Bartman have spoken about title deeds and the ANC taking away title deeds of these farmers. When Casidra bought implements for farmers, it got registered in the name of Casidra, not in those farmers, And you should tell us why. When people of Malian State and Vaikraal ask for the title deeds of those particular farms that you are managing, you tell us you are not ready to hand over those title deeds to those peoples. So you tell us that. So when we spoke about the future, whose future? But all the monies made by the agricultural sector in this province, billions of rands, as a senior leader of the ANC, in your manifesto and in your economic policy, you tell us they're only worth 1,800 rand a month for more than 200 hours of work. So whose future are we talking about when you speak about the future? I really don't know. The city of Cape Town and 8 officials are appearing in court because of 1 billion rand that have disappeared, Premier. Whose future has been taken away? No, that's his human settlements. Whose future has been taken away? The DA government in the city of Cape Town can't account for 1 billion rand that have disappeared. You spoke about the Honorable Van der Westhuizen who will come and speak afterwards. The Honorable Van der Westhuizen has been called a land thief by the Stellenbosch municipality. So he doesn't have the standing and come here and speak on behalf of the people of the Western Cape. So when we speak about the future, whose future? Honorable Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the African National Congress to decline support for the proposed budget adjustments for the Western Cape for the Department of Agriculture. Speaker, the MEC during the medium-term budget spoke about a budget for the future. And indeed, the results of this budget speak about the future of the rich versus those who are poor. In debating the adjustment budget, the ANC contends that the disconcerting trend has emerged, where funds allocated for compensation of employees' welfare are being diverted to other programs. This redirection not only raises concerns about the equitable distribution of resources, but also undermines the agreed-upon commitment to prioritize the well-being of workers. Thus far, the department has shifted funds to approximately 11.6 million in compensation of employees. The objection intensifies as those responsible for relocation. These fights has paradoxically opposed a workers' wage agreement, claiming that they are on the back foot with 1.1 billion. A billion that has been stolen by the city of Cape Town, where 8 officials are appearing in court. That's the billion that we are talking about. The resource to an intergovernmental dispute with the national government further exacerbates the situation, creating an unsettling precedent of disregarding the very workforce that propels the nation's progress. The department went on to further reduce the EPWP program to 235,000, a program that was very instrumental in bringing or cushioning the unemployed. This reduction comes after the annual budget, that it was held that in short to the medium period, 1,000 green jobs will be created through EPWP. These steps by the DA-led government display unwarranted attack on the working class. While there's always a demand from the DA-led government to national to give them more money and more money and more money, which is what they pride themselves, that they just want more money and not utilize that for the benefit of the people, or even seeing the results on the ground, not paperwork. National grant funding has been reduced by 9.6 million men to relieve the poverty and support people out of poverty and support infrastructure development. The ANC is deeply troubled by the widening scope of funds reallocation with the adjustment budget, beyond the initial concern for employee welfare. It has come to the light that funds earmarked for educational bursaries are also being redirected. This redirection raises alarming questions about the government's commitment to investing in the future of its citizens. The department has sifted funds to the value of 2.8 million without impunity for those who've meant to benefit from this. Not investing in them will bring challenges, as the department says, and I quote, capacity remains a crucial challenge within the sustainable resource use and management as engineering professionals remain in demand, close quote. Instead of supporting the education and advancement of students through bursaries, these funds are now allocated for the repayment of TV licenses, maintenance and equipment, and the purchase of laptops and software upgrades. During the annual budget, the MSC spoke about 569 registered students in the 2023 academic year and was only able to distribute 109 bursaries, while at the same time they are cutting. Speaker, the ANC urges that such decisions
Please conclude.
pillars an inclusive and equitable society, diverting crucial resources away from education and cornerstone of the national development. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maran. Your time has expired. Please take your seat.
Saying we cannot.
Please take your seat, Honorable Maran. Your time. Thank you very much, Honorable Maran. Your time has expired. Thank you very much, Honorable Maran. Honorable members, the next honorable member is on the hybrid system, and I please ask for your indulgence. I recognize the Honorable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the aim of this department is said to be to enhance the economic, ecological and social wealth of all in the Western Cape. However, the reality is that whilst the constitution of this country does not empower provincial governments with land redistribution powers, as they are obviously exclusively reserved for national government, there is absolutely nothing stopping this provincial government from leasing its own agricultural land to emerging African and coloured farmers to achieve its aim of enhancing social wealth for all the people in the Western Cape, irrespective of race, Speaker. And needless to say that for this to happen, it must be spearheaded by the Provincial Minister of Agriculture in the Western Cape. It is shocking that the department's budget was cut by more than 6 million, which is money that could have been directed to people in different communities who are engaged in food gardens for both substance and commercial gain. This would have gone a long way, Speaker, in alleviating the effects of poverty, unemployment, and food security, and could have been used to upskill people involved in food gardens so that later, when this DA provincial government comes to its senses, then they can lease agricultural land to upskill individuals in the agricultural sector who will hit the ground running in producing agricultural goods while also creating job opportunities in the process. Speaker, it's a sad reality that the majority of poor communities clean up dumping sites and then convert them to food gardens, but they still do not receive assistance from this Provincial Department of Agriculture, which is only concerned about white and rich farm owners, especially in the winery industry. But let me conclude, Speaker, by reminding the Minister that the provincial government's 2021 study found that food insecurity in this province affected up to 53% of African and 41% of coloured households. And most of those households were led by women. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kasim. Honorable members, the next speaker is also on the hybrid system. I recognize the Honorable Marais.
Thanks, Speaker. Speaker, we must stop mowing and start encouraging each other. The moans will not grow the economy. Futuristic thinking will. And I think we must stop looking at Europe and look to Africa for some solutions. First of all, I support this budget. I'll vote for it. We must look at the Ivory Coast. We must look at the Gulf of Guinea and see what they've done. How do they feed their people and how do they empower small farmers? Most of the forests in these countries have been destroyed to the detriment of snails because it was deforestation that caused the snails to disappear. And what have they done? They didn't sit in one corner and cry. 1,500 new small snail farmers have emerged in
Honorable Marais, your time has expired. Please conclude.
I want the minister to look at how small snail farmers can benefit in terms of producing more jobs and empowering
Thank you very
them and
much,
also
Honourable Marie.
feeding
Your
them.
time has expired. Thank you
Wow.
very much. I now recognize the Honourable Van der Westhuizen.
Honourable Speaker, colleagues, and a warm welcome to the senior officials from the Department of Agriculture. By this time, it will come as no surprise to this House to hear that the budget of the Department of Agriculture had to be cut. We all know that the NC government, and particularly government-owned entities such as Transnet, have failed us miserably. South Africa is a country that is richly endowed with minerals, with a large percentage of our population of working age, with a good financial system, everything that is needed for a thriving economy. What is more, the world wants to do business with South Africa. But China can only buy our iron and ore if Transnet can bring this to the harbors. Europe and America can only buy our fresh produce if we can export it through our container terminals. And Africa can only buy our processed foods and manufactured items if we allow it to move smoothly through our border posts. But we unfortunately just need to look at the economic statistics of the third quarter of this year that were released earlier to see what an unreliable electricity supply does to the ability to produce goods, including agricultural goods, and especially processed agricultural products and manufactured items. What a shame on this ANC government that have managed our economy into negative growth figures. But may I remind the House, and Premier referred to it earlier, that this lack of electricity has been ongoing for more than 15 years. That we are sitting with an ANC government that has, in the words of former President Mbeki, failed to plan, implement, and invest in adequate electricity generation capacity. May I remind this House that if it was not for load shedding, for poor policing, for the failed investment and related policies of the ANC, that this country would have thrived economically. And that ironically, the demand for electricity in such a case would have been much, much higher than what we are seeing now. And still, the central government is sitting on its hands. It could and it should have done a lot more to encourage South Africans to invest, particularly in renewable energy. South Africa once boasted a strong and resilient economy, but while I was preparing for this debate, our president was complaining and begging for money at COP28. What a shame. So the ANC ruled our infrastructure. The ANC then ruined the economy. They even deliberately ruined SARS because the Revenue Service expected of some of the ANC's corrupt buddies and politicians with dubious sources of income to start paying taxes on that income. And now we are sitting on the edge of a fiscal cliff. Now we are in a situation where budgets have to be cut, where posts have to be left unfunded and unfilled. Where the ANC is in charge, they just ignore budgets and they stop payments to providers such as Eskom and Rand Water and others. And they cut back on maintenance. I invite you, honourable members, just travel to other provinces and go and look for yourself at the condition of particularly the secondary roads. And we all know that agricultural products need good roads to get to the markets. Just go and speak to fellow South Africans whose taps run dry, often for weeks on end, where households hope that their refuse will be removed, not weekly, but where we are happy if it gets removed at least once a month. And I'm not referring to the rural areas or small rural municipalities. I'm speaking from the personal experience of close family members staying in Mangaung. Let me interrupt myself. This once beautiful city, Mangaung, was once known as Die Roosestad. Its official name was Bloemfontein, which if translated from the Old Dutch into English means flower fountain. Well, the ANC knew that under their rule, the flowers would soon all be gone. Indeed, one could ask, where have all the flowers gone? In an ironic twist, the ANC changed the name from Bloemfontein into Mangaung, which is a Sesotho word for predators, for the cheetahs. So, under the ANC, this metro has indeed become the feeding ground of ANC predators. What an apt name change, especially if we think of the charges against previous ANC leaders such as Ace Magashule and his cronies, the Guptas. Now, with such predators as leaders,
Honorable
how can you grow the
Stetson,
economy?
please take your seat. Honorable Dugmore, is that a point of order?
Yes, my point of order is, Speaker, whether the Honourable van der Westhuizen is prepared to accept a question.
Thank you very much.
But the voortrekker,
Honorable Dugmore, that is, you can't pose your question. Honorable van der Westhuizen, are you prepared to take a question?
No, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Dugmore, Honorable van der Westhuizen is not prepared to take a question. Honorable van der Westhuizen, please take your seat.
No, thank you.
Honorable van der Westhuizen, please take your seat. Honorable Kama, I have not yet recognized you. I will now recognize you. What's your point of order?
No, thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I just wanted to ascertain whether member is not in contravention of Rule 50, because I think he's addressing us from Member Bosman's seat when the rules are saying he should be addressing us from his.
Honorable Kama, Honorable Kama,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Honorable members, that is in fact a rule. But the honorable member is in fact addressing the chair from his bench. So that is not a point of order. Honorable Dugmore, Honorable van der Westhuizen, you may continue.
Thank you, Chair. It clearly is getting under the skin of the opposition. Now, with such predators as leaders, how can we hope to grow the economy of this country? How can we create jobs? And how, in the sense of agriculture, can you farm productively? Go and speak to farmers that have to irrigate the sewage in their water. Go and speak to farmers that want to protect their animals against diseases such as foot and mouth disease, and that are unable to access animal vaccines. Go and speak to farmers that now need to appoint their own security companies because the South African Police Services, a national competency, has lost its ability to apprehend stock thieves, copper thieves, and worse, murderers. The list is long. It's against this background that the Western Cape Department of Agriculture must assist our farmers to produce more food for a growing nation. And how well are the Western Cape's farmers not doing? Speaker, die nasionale regering gebruik dikwels provinsiale regerings om hulle planne te implementeer. En ons gee nie om daardie dienste namens die nasionale regering te hanteer nie, solank daar aan sekere vereistes voldoen word. Solank ons weet dat daar 'n gereelde oordrag van fondse gaan wees. Solank ons weet dat daar genoeg tyd gaan wees om die implementeringsplanne gereed te kry en om die geld sinvol te kan spandeer. En ons doen dit graag omdat ons weet dat sekere planne net eenvoudig beter op plaaslike vlak geïmplementeer word as wat dit uit Pretoria uit gepoog word om daardie planne te realiseer. In hierdie verband verwys ek na die regering se plig om byvoorbeeld grondhervorming te befonds en te bestuur. En die bestaande skemas, en agbare sprekers voor my daarna verwys, staan bekend in die omgang as CASP en Ilima Letsetma. Nou hierdie programme is daar om die eienaarskap in ons land en in ons provinsie spesifiek ook te verbeter. En die leier van die oppositie het vroeër in die week ook daarna verwys dat ons steeds sit met 'n skewe eienaarskap van grond in Suid-Afrika. Toe die grondwet van Suid-Afrika 30 jaar gelede onderhandel was, is dit as 'n groot probleem uitgewys. En daar was op die nasionale regering die verpligting geplaas om grondhervormingsplanne in te stel. Maar wat het gebeur? Die CASP en Ilima Letsema begrotings van opkomende boere krimp elke jaar, ook in hierdie begrotingsjaar. Die begroting om grond aan te koop vir grondhervorming raak al hoe kleiner. Waarskynlik omdat, en die minister het daarna verwys, hierdie skemas in ander provinsies 'n volslaaf flop is. Maar boerdery, weet ons, is 'n uiters riskante aktiwiteit. Daarom dat ons regtig trots is op die hoë sukseskoers van opkomende boere in die Wes-Kaap. En landbougrond in die Wes-Kaap, weet ons, is van die duurste landbougrond wat daar in hierdie land beskikbaar is. Mens sou dus redelikerwys kon verwag dat die sentrale regering se begroting vir grondhervorming vir die Wes-Kaap veel groter sou wees as die vir ander provinsies. Maar nee, in plaas daarvan dat die Wes-Kaap se begroting vir sulke inisiatiewe verhoog word, krimp dit. En dan het die leier van die oppositie nog die vermeetheid om ons as provinsiale regering te wil kritiseer vir iets waarvoor die nasionale regering verantwoordelik is. Dit is hulle wat verantwoordelik is vir die traapas van grondhervorming. Pleks dat hy sy eie partygenote hieroor aanspreek. Pleks dat hy dit by die konferensies van die ANC opper en hulle op hulle skandes wys. En vir ons help om meer geld na die Wes-Kaap te kanaliseer vir spesifiek grondhervorming. Die agbare Maran verwys na die plase Waaikraal en Amalienstein. En ek wens hy wil teruggaan en gaan kyk wat was die geskiedenis, hoe dat daardie plase in die besit van die provinsiale regering gekom het. Hierdie plase is beide geleë in gebiede wat aan ernstige droogtes onderhewig is. Wat ernstige hulp nodig het, net om aan die klompie plaaswerkers wat daar alreeds is, aan hulle voltydse werk en 'n volhoubare werk te kan voorsien. Maar wat wil hierdie ANC lid doen? Speaker, hy wil 'n verliesmakende plaas aan 'n arm gemeenskap gaan oorhandig en dit hulle mislukking dan uiteindelik maak. Die DA in die Wes-Kaap werk nie so nie. Ons gee vir iemand net iets oor, ons gee die bal vir hulle net as hulle sukses daarvan kan maak. Nou die agbare Maran is goed bekend met rugby. In rugby is daar die term van 'n hospital pass. Hy wil aan Waaikraal en aan Amalienstein se mense 'n hospital pass gee. En hy skaam hom nie om dit hier in hierdie parlement voor te stel nie. Oor die afgelope aantal jare het ons talle voorbeelde gesien waar die provinsiale regering moes ingryp waar nasionale departemente gefaal het. Ek verwys byvoorbeeld na die springkanpla, wat al die jare en in gevolge wetgewing is hierdie natuurrampe die verantwoordelikheid van die nasionale regering. Maar wat het ons gesien? Die nasionale regering het nie die toerusting nie, hulle het nie die nodige chemikalieë nie, en uiteindelik was dit die Wes-Kaap wat moes inspring om ons boere te beskerm teen hierdie springkanpla. Speaker, in die Wes-Kaap doen ons dinge anders. En al gaan dit moeilik met ons finansies, lê ons steeds in die opleiding van ons jong mense. Minister het verwys na Elsenburg en die belangrike werk wat daar gedoen word, veral in terme van wingerdbou, wynmaak en hierdie goed wat spesifiek in die Wes-Kaap vir ons belangrik is. Maar voordat ek voortgaan om te sê hoe dat ons 'n krimpende begroting anders benader, kom ons kyk net hoe gaan dit by ander provinsies se landboukolleges. Tot ons skaamte moes ons sien hoe dat by 'n landboukollege in Noordwes provinsie die diere wat veronderstel is om modelboerderydiere te wees, van die honger en die dors vrek. Dit nou 'n plek waar jy juis op goeie boerderypraktyke 'n voorbeeld wil stel. Hoe kan jy jong mense oplei om vir diere te sorg wanneer daai diere besig is om van honger en dors om te kom? Dit is nie net die ANC provinsiale regering wat nie hulle verskaffers kan betaal nie. Dis ook die ANC as party wat nie hulle verskaffers kan betaal nie. Maar om terug te kom na begrotingspos nommer 11. Van my kant wil ek sê, te midde van hierdie beperkende ekonomiese omstandighede, baie dankie aan die provinsiale tesourie. Baie dankie aan Mr. Wenger, waar daarin geslaag het om maar 'n baie klein snit op die landboubegroting toe te pas. Die Wes-Kaap is die provinsie van hoop. Hoop vir die toekoms, hoop vir ons jong mense. Hier word nie korttermyn gedink nie. Hier word geld gespandeer met die langtermyn toekoms in gedagte. En daarom glo ons dat om in die jeug en in die toekoms te belê, ten spyte van die gedwonge inkrimping van begrotings, stel hierdie aansuiveringsbegroting voor dat die Wes-Kaap se bydrae tot die opleiding van jong mense met 16% verhoog word. Wys my 'n ander provinsiale regering wat so langtermyn dink en beplan. Wys my nog 'n politieke party wat met raad en daad illustreer dat hy die waarde van kennis en kennisoordrag besef. Wat besef dat ons in die jeug ons toekoms moet belê. In die komitee se verslag sal u sien dat die ANC sy teenstem en hierdie ekstra fondse jeug laat notuleer het. Ek sal ook sien dat die ANC en ander oppositiepartye stil is oor hoe hulle reken hierdie begroting enigstens beter saamgestel moes word. Daar was geen alternatiewe begroting aan ons voorgehou deur die oppositie nie. Voorsitter, daarom kan ek hierdie huis met trots meedeel dat die staande komitee op landbou, omgewingsake en ontwikkelingsbeplanning met 'n meerderheid van stemme by hierdie huis heel hartig aanbeveel om die begroting soos voorgelê goed te keer. Ek dank u.
Baie dankie agbare lid van der Westhuizen. I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister May.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. To Honourable Member Maran, land reform study confirms 63%. It's been successful. You know that right in the national government, the population size was 137. The sample was 84, which is a 61% success rate in terms of that population size. You also know that land reform, these are farmers on Elrod and Plus farms. We don't buy land. This is the mandate of the national government. We're only going to do things that is legal. We are the only province with a strategy for farmer support and commodity approach, Honourable Speaker. And the EPWP that they refer to is a grant from national, and we don't effect these particular cuts. Honourable Member Kasim, land acquisition, we have legal counsel. We investigated this opportunity that you raised, but our legal counsel has indicated that we cannot go there. PELS is a great platform. The partnership in agriculture land solutions. In terms of food gardens that you mentioned, we have delivered more than 3,000 food gardens through our One Home, One Garden project. The evidence indicated, Honourable Member Kasim, through the independent evaluation, the research that was done, we assessed it, and that assessment has indicated the evaluation that 75% of our food gardens are productive and contribute to food security. So there's an independent evaluation, which we believe in terms of data-led and evidence-based governance. Honourable Member Marais, thank you for supporting the budget. You all seems to be the only person on that side of the house that understand the importance of food security and the important role that agriculture plays. Honourable Member van der Westhuizen, thank you for an excellent speech. I always listen attentively and in depth to your debate, because your research is not only from the book, but also from practical work that you've seen as part of your oversight visit. And Honourable Member van der Westhuizen indicated that his focus is on long-term focus and investment in the future of the youth. So I want to thank Honourable Member for that. But Honourable Members, I listened to the Premier speaking here, I listened to the Honourable Members in this House, and during the course of this week, members of this side of the House were in support of the NHI, the National Health Insurance. It pains me deeply because we know what is happening at Baragwana Hospital. But Honourable Speaker, Honourable Members on this side of the House, they are all members of Parmet. But it seems now that they have abandoned Parmet. Honourable Member Karma, you are now abandoning Parmet for NHI. This is your new ANC medical aid card. And so this is your card. You must now write to the Speaker. You must now write to the Speaker and say, I hand over my Parmet medical aid card. I'm no longer a member of Parmet because I want NHI. There are 14 cards here, 14 members, but there's one, because I don't know where Al Jama is standing. I also included their card. They must write at the end of today in this House, they must now write to you, Speaker, because you are the employer, and Parmet is a condition of service, and they must now indicate to you that they, at the end of today, I'm going to phone your office, Speaker, because if you no longer want to join and be part of Parmet, you made your choice, you want NHI, which means your permit card is now no longer valid. And because it is no longer valid, we are now putting the permit medical aid of these members in the bin because they have chose NHI, which is a death warrant. And I'm sad. I don't want my colleagues to die, but they made that choice. Karma, you're going to end up in Baragwana Hospital because you reject the choice that you have, universal healthcare by an excellent minister of health in this province. You chose a different route, but you can still make a choice. You can make a declaration today in the House. And your declaration can say, I reject NHI, I accept universal healthcare, and this minister can save your life. That's the choice. Flip up your card. And if you want proper healthcare, you made a choice. But we love you, Mr. Kama. NHI is your,
Minister, please take your seat.
death insurance.
Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Maran, is that a point of order?
No, it was supposed to be a point of order, Speaker, because the MEC have switched on all the lights, but it has been switched off now.
Thank you very much. I don't, I just want to correct that. That is not the MEC that switched it on. I think that it was done from the table. Can I please remind the Minister? Minister, you can only make your contribution from your bench.
Speaker, I accept your ruling. I apologize. But any member of the staff in this legislature working here, please raise your voice against NHI because we love you. We don't want you to see you die in Baragwana Hospital, where patients today are lying in blood because NHI is failure. But honorable members, the Deputy Chief Whip gave me something very powerful. She gave me a measurement because honorable member Christopher Fry asked, what if we are the new government? I think the first thing we need to do, because they have stolen the curtains in the union buildings. And I'm on my way to the union buildings, but I have already measured the size of the windows and the curtains. But this is not curtains that we're going to buy. Some of the members in this side of the house, like Honorable Member Dan Plato, he has some extra curtains. I will amend it and not buy curtains because there's no money left in the budget. So we will now reuse the old curtains of Honorable Member Dan Plato, but we need, what if Mr. Kama is now becoming a reality? And I can see Honorable Member Peter Marais, former Premier of this province, he understands the importance of measuring correctly because the trains that your government ordered were measured incorrectly. They didn't know whether the trains can go. This side of the house, we measure. This is why the Deputy Chief Whip measure twice, cut once, it is said in the schools. On a serious note, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the members who support this budget because this is a budget that you will feel this afternoon when you have lunch. This, you will see, Mr. Kama, the size of the nyama will come smaller. There will be Karua land, but it will be smaller as a result of the budget cut. Don't ask your family, why is my meal so small? It is the effect of the budget cuts. It is real. If you look at the hair of my HOD, if you look at the hair of Honorable Member Pat Baran, and if you look at my own hair, it's a testimony of things to come. The budget cuts are deep. Honorable Speaker, I conclude by thanking my new CFO, outstanding, brilliant, exceptional, meet the requirement of excellence. But I want to thank a former minister, Minister Regan Allen, that released Ms. Governor, Lindy Governor. I would like her to please stand. Thank you for joining an exceptional department. We are looking forward to work closely with you. You are now inheriting a budget that has been cut deeply. We rely on your exceptional budgetary skills to assist us, because I've developed a governance framework that says a budget has 3 dimensions. Firstly, it has a normative dimension. That's the guidance from the Premier and the guidance we get from the Minister of Finance. Secondly, it is a technical dimension, and we rely on your technical skills to assist the HOD and myself moving through difficult times. But also a budget, very important, is a political dimension. And the politics of this government is for an open opportunity society based on the values of freedom, fairness, and opportunity. And fundamental is the issue of redress that has been raised here. We wish you a very happy and a successful term. The air in Elsenburg is much more fresh, so you will be much more healthier. And we wish you very happiness in a very excellent department. This cabinet, under the leadership of the Premier, approved your appointment. And we want to thank you for stepping in the shoes of also a great CFO, Mr. Floris Huyshammer. I thank the House.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, honourable members. That concludes the debate on this vote. The Secretary will read the third order of the day. But before the Secretary does that, I'm going to allow the officials to leave, and if there's the officials from infrastructure, if they are joining. Minister, can you just give me an indication? All right, members, I ask for your indulgence. Honourable Maran, is there a point of order? Honourable Maran, is there a point of order? You may raise your point. Members, please. Members, order. Thank you very much, honourable members. The Secretary will read the third order of the day.
Debate on vote 10, infrastructure, Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much. I recognise the Honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Minister Simmers.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, members of the Cabinet, members of this House, also guests in the gallery and also a lot in virtually. Honourable Speaker, where ignorance is our master, there is no possibility of real peace. Close quote, that is the Dalai Lama. Earlier this year, I tabled my department's inaugural budget vote, and it was themed Building the New Hope. Our record of delivery will indicate that we have indeed kept true to this theme. However, as indicated in the quote from the Dalai Lama, today's adjustment budget vote, or shall I rather say budget cuts, is mainly driven by sheer ignorance of the highest order by the ANC national government. Due to years of carrying dead wood, exorbitant bailouts of state-owned entities with negative returns year on year, the chickens are now coming home to roost. Further, we've been stifled by the continued daily load shedding experiences, despite large amounts of funds that have gone into Eskom since 2008 in response to a worsening financial position. Speaker, in economics, we are told of the circular flow of income in an economy, which is the flow of production. And this is where manufacturers produce goods, and for that, they employ citizens or people. This ultimately leads to income. Through this production, those employees and households earn an income, something which is much needed in our country for so many who are unemployed. This then also leads to expenditure, or the possibility of being able to spend your income. This is where households spend that income on goods produced by those manufacturers, which enables them to continue production in this cycle. However, due to the electricity crisis and inefficiencies of the state-owned entities, this seemingly simple economic flow is buckling and coming undone. Our country is arguably in its worst financial position in the post-apartheid era. En dit kan net slegter gaan soos die data wys op die oomblik. This is all thanks to a party which governs through ignorance and governs while it's stuck in the past. And that party's name is the African National Congress. And amidst all of this, to add insult to already a very injured population, earlier this week we had to learn that yet again, the National Treasury afforded the 47 billion rand bailout to Transnet. Again, another failing SOE, proudly brought to you by the zombie state called the African National Congress. Honourable Speaker, in terms of Programme 1, administration, when I tabled the budget for the year earlier, it was on the eve of the newly formed department called the Department of Infrastructure. And at the time, we had a management arrangement in place to allow for the transition and transfer of staff between the two newly formed departments, mainly being mobility and the Department of Infrastructure. Honourable Speaker, alle goeie dinge moet tot 'n einde kom. And that arrangement has now been concluded and dissolved at the end of October 2023, with a complement of 126 staff members being transferred over to mobility. And at this stage, I would really like to thank and show my appreciation to all staff members who worked during this difficult transition period, and also thank the Premier and the DG's office who played an impeccable role in ensuring that this transition could be successful, but above all, that at its core, services continued happening through our department. But Speaker, I'm here today to essentially address you on how we plan to navigate the adjustments made to the reality of my department's budget for the remainder of this financial year, which is the elephant in the room so many have addressed before me today. The preparation of my department's budget for the rest of the financial year is set to decrease by 2.6%. This will be felt across all the branches in the Department of Infrastructure. Instead of pointing out every item with budget reduction, I will seek to highlight the delivery that will be impacted and the progress that will now have to be drawn backwards. The implications of these negative adjustments will have a knock-on effect, sadly, for years to come, given the nature of infrastructure itself. And this can be likened to stopping a plane on the runway, thereby affecting all traffic incoming, but also outbound from that airport. However, in the case of our country and the citizens, that traffic will be our citizens who are undeserving of such short-sightedness, again, by an ANC national government that is stuck in the past. But Honourable Speaker, as much as there's hopelessness in 8 other provinces, this province and each and every department, including my own, remains a beacon of hope for those citizens as we continue to build a new hope on the journey to where this country is heading come election 2024. And I move to Programme 2, which is Public Works and Infrastructure. Because as a department and as a cabinet, we are cognizant of the critical enabling role that infrastructure plays in society in general, but also in the economic growth prospects of this province and ultimately in the country. But noting the risks associated with any further deterioration in the ability of infrastructure to perform at the prescribed standards, we have set the protection of the Asset Portfolio Foundation as our key objective. By focusing on maintenance, as well as the prioritization of assets that have the most profound service delivery impact and face the greatest risk of failure, be it at our provincial level and yes, at municipal level. But while we are focusing on this, Honourable Chair, and the Premier earlier spoke about Eskom and load shedding, it is said that in times of crisis, people reach for meaning. Meaning is strength, and our survival may well depend on seeking and finding that meaning, which is why, while the rest of the country is faced with stage 6 load shedding and without any hope of a national solution, as the Western Cape government, we are busy implementing much needed innovation. In October, together with DDAT, we successfully launched the Municipal Wheeling Kit. It is without a doubt that this toolkit will be adopted and used countrywide, given the inquiries from municipalities from beyond our borders, Premier, already inquiring about our toolkit. Ons is werklik ware baken van hoop vir die wat hopeloos is buite ons provinsiale grense. But this once again proves that as a province, under the leadership of our Premier, we lead while the rest will follow. Never mind catching up, because some of them are very, very far behind our province. Because we need to ensure that we provide hope to millions of South Africans, and it is not lost due to poor or stagnant national leadership, Honourable Speaker. And to ensure that this tooling kit is a success at local government level, over the next couple of months, we will continue with more training events within our municipalities so it can get wider adoption, as we want to ensure that the Western Cape is lit up into the future, so that our residents don't worry at local government level about load shedding, because, Honourable Speaker and members of the House, that is what a caring government actually is supposed to do, and what this DA-led government in this province is doing. Honourable Speaker, in February, I visited the Middle Post Primary School in Saldanha Bay, and the team, during my site visit, reassured that that project would be finished before the end of the winter. Indeed, I can confirm to the House this afternoon that by the end of July, construction was completed in record time. An 88 million rand school, which will accommodate 1,860 learners from grade R to grade 7, is complete. That will be one of the biggest schools in the West Coast. This will change not only the lives of the children and educators, but also the surrounding community. And the irony, we built the school in an ANC ward where ANC council is seeing hope through a DA-led provincial government. Ons moet die feite gee, anders gaan niemand ooit daarvan praat nie. But further to this, Honourable Speaker, over the next 8 months, we plan to complete another 3 brand new schools across our province, because as a Department of Infrastructure, we intend to enable infrastructure-led growth and investment in the Western Cape that we believe must benefit all of the communities we serve in brick and mortar. Honourable Speaker, the road infrastructure in the Western Cape is crucial for our province's economic growth, our tourism, but above all, connecting various communities. It facilitates trade and transportation of goods. It enhances access to remote areas of our non-metro areas, and also supports the overall development of our region as a whole. And additionally, well-maintained roads contribute to improved safety, reduced travel times, and increased accessibility for both residents and visitors to our beautiful shores. It is therefore in this program that we receive a rollover of 7.5 million rand. But as we have seen in the recent floods in June and September in our province, we were so many times reminded of the critical role this program plays from an economic perspective, but also in terms of the socio-economic value of our roads infrastructure. Many of these communities at times were cut off from the rest of our province, but also essential services. In June, the community of Citrusdal were worried about missing the scheduled medical procedures due to their main road being cut off after it was washed away by a flood. However, this provincial government, through this specific branch in my department, in record time, 10 days, we reconnected an entire community to the rest of this province. We did that with might, in partnership, not only through years of investment at district level, but also working with the surrounding farmers and the local municipality. Saam kon ons baie vinnig dinge gedoen kry. But Speaker, on the 25th of September, our province was yet again hit by a severe storm. Some say the worst in over 40 years. But this time, the height of the devastation in terms of our road network increased dramatically. At one stage, we had over 150 provincial and local roads being closed. That is a lot to deal with. Many people were left destitute. But yet again, the commitment of our officials, our roads teams, even to the lowest level, ensured that our investment over many, many years in developing in-house capacity saw them rolling up their sleeves. And they did what this Western Cape government does best, getting things done, hitting the ground running. So road infrastructure, once again, in this instance, we could rebuild a bridge in 21 days. Maar achtbare speaker, die leier van die oppositie wat hou van om geraas te maak, gaan kyk 'n bietjie in julle ander provinsies wat julle regeer 2 jaar later, is sommige paaie nog nie eens reggemaak nie.
Orde.
Bekommerd wees oor nonsens. Kyk wat jou eie party se mislukkings is, dan praat ons weer.
Order.
Speaker, in less than 30 days of a disaster, we managed to ensure that only 36 roads still remain closed. No other province can say that. No other province can do that. Commitment of our people. We reconnected an entire community of McGregor to the municipality. A miraculous job. If you ask me, again, can the opposition leader in this house say anything else about his party is doing in other provinces? Ek dink hulle kan nie, want hulle is op pad by die deur uit. And Speaker, with the festive season upon us, and many road travelers being concerned about which roads are closed, being well aware of our roadworks in our province, I can make certain announcement this morning, given that we are now heading to the peak inflow of people and tourists to our province. Clarence Drive, Franschhoek Pass, and the Hemel en Aarde Road will be open for one-way traffic with effect from Friday next week. That is commitment by the teams of our provincial branch in terms of roads. But I do want to caution our road users, even the opposition members in this house. Kyk dan maar die borde asseblief. Volg die reëls, kom dit na. Add some additional time to your traveling, because at the end of the day, what we are doing is repairing the roads for you. Being well aware that many have booked campsites. Some are going to get married. So please simmer down your concerns. The roads will be open for one-way traffic. Honorable Speaker,
Order.
this is one example where one needs to thank the department, our partners at local government. Agriculture has played a role. Our district teams have played a role because we have shown excellence in the public sector is a reality if we all work together, if you put your citizen first and the business sector is kept abreast. But above all, we have shown that we can also restore the economy in record time when we are confronted with emergencies. But sadly, as Minister Wenger stated, we will not receive any funding from the National Disaster Fund. So as die leier van die oppositie spreker op 'n geraas maak, miskien moet hy gaan aanroep en vra, hoekom kry hy sy geld nie, maar weet jy hoekom? Hy kan net geraas maak in die huis, as alwaarvoor hy goed is, dis wanneer sy kongres kon wen van sy eie party in die Weskaap.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, over the coming months, despite the budget cuts, we will initiate and continue with new initiatives and projects in terms of transport infrastructure, as we are fully aware that the economy needs to be kept alive. And this will be done through the following projects. The N7 to freeway standard, which is at the Van Skoorsdrift. It's a 550 million rand infrastructure project. Periodic maintenance between Ceres to Toes River, 120 million rand per roads project. The Malmesbury bypass, Honorable Minister Bradell, a 530 million rand investment into a single municipality. The upgrade of the road between Stanford to Gansbaai, almost 390 million rand investment. The rehabilitation of the road between Waberskal and Holgaten, 175 million rand investment in terms of roads. Also the reconstruction of the MR191 between Paul and Franshoek, a 610 million rand road infrastructure investment. En tussen allemaal die achtbare voorzitter, speaker, gaan ons steeds voort om die vloedskade te herstel. Ons kry dinge gedoen. Ons is nie aan die slaap, soos in die ander provinsies waar die ANC al op vakansie gaan nie, met alle respek gesê, dit al vir 5 jaar amper. Which leads me to branch or human settlements. And much has been said about title deeds. For this, there is a rollover of 3.961 million rand in terms of title deed restoration. But as this House is well aware, Honourable Speaker, since the start of my term, I have always spoken on the importance of ensuring that our citizens are provided with security of tenure, which so many of them deserve. Because this document holds immense significance, especially in uncertain economic times, such as we are currently in as a nation. And amid economic fluctuations, a title deed ensures stability, facilitates property transactions, and serves as a crucial asset for individuals and the economy alike. It's for this purpose and for this year up-to-date, Honourable Speaker, that we've already emancipated 1,799 beneficiaries within this province with a title deed. And in some instances, we've been able to ensure that as we conclude a housing project, the same day we hand over the housing key, we hand over the title deed. Now that is a party and a government at work for their citizens. And Honourable Chair, just to take it a bit further, in fact, on Monday, I will be visiting Bredasdorp again to hand over 140 title deeds. 2 weeks ago, I visited the community of Elands Bay, where the 84-year-old Mr. and Mrs. Porfies received a title deed. They waited 40 years for their title deed. A chapter in their painful lives closed. But partnership is the key to move forward, because alone we can do so little. And together we can do so much. And in recognizing the shortfalls within our partners at municipal level, we have refined and bulked up our internal resources to ensure that the 7 municipalities with the biggest title deed backlog can be fully assisted. And they are Saldanha Bay, Theewaterskloof, Drakensberg, Pito, George, Knysna, and Stellenbosch. Honourable Speaker, the Western Cape government consistently is looking at how we can create more affordable housing opportunities for the citizens and those qualifying beneficiaries. Which is why in the first quarter of this fiscal year, we completed the Regent Villas social housing project in Mitchells Plain, Honourable Mackenzie. We then continued in record time to hand over the Maitland Muse social housing project, which is another exemplar. And over this weekend, actually on Saturday, the Premier and I will be accompanying the National Minister of Human Settlements as we hand over the first 331 units of the Guru Station social housing project, which will upon its completion create 1,055 housing opportunities. And this is much to the dismay, Honourable Speaker, to the opposition in this House, who consistently try to portray this DA-led government and this department as one who does not care, who does not prioritize affordable housing. Well, Reiki Koffie and Skrik Bakker, there's a lot of facts that you are not looking at. Honourable Speaker, but much has also been said this morning about extortion. And it's a pity that Honourable Member Mkondo is not in the House. We have seen the scourge of crime and extortion, and it's now found its way into the Western Cape. And I droom ek sê minister wees vir 100 jaar. So much that it has now become a daily nightmare, with billions of rands being lost every day across all 9 provinces. But more recently, we learned, Speaker, that approximately 77% of SAPS precincts in the Western Cape have staff shortages. And many of you will ask, now, how does this tie in with extortion in my department? Speaker, in the absence of adequate policing in precincts across our province, we, through our branch human settlements, and this is just between April of this year until October 2023, have spent 75 million rand on security because of a failing national SAPS. This is at a loss of 277 housing units, or 1,100 people losing out on a full housing opportunity. And the areas being affected, Honourable Speaker, is the areas where many of the opposition members in this House serve as constituencies. Maar hulle is absoluut mors dood stil. Hulle maak net geraas as hulle in hierdie huis sit. In our public works infrastructure branch, as recently as last month in Guguletu, at the Lita Primary School, which there's a contract in place for preventative maintenance of 7.7 million rand, Honourable Speaker. The contractor walked off site. He says they do not feel safe anymore. Maar wat sê die oppositie van hierdie wetgewer? Absoluut niks. Want leerblikke maak altyd die meeste geraas soos hulle weer eens vandag besig is om te doen. In terms of Delft in February, at the Sunray Primary School, again, business forums or so-called community leaders, again, try to stop and extort funding at this project. Again, all of this has an impact on my portfolio. Honourable Speaker, I can make many more examples. But once again, this seemingly SAPs in our province are under-resourced and they can't manage what they actually have at their disposal. But what is saddening, Speaker, is the reality that SAPs actually has a national budget of 20 billion rand. 20 biljoen. Kan jy dit glo, maar ons moet nou behuisingsgeld vat om hulle probleme aan te spreek. But Chairperson or Speaker, when Eskom cut off the power and continue to terrorize our citizens, the people that suffer are the most vulnerable. I stood here in March and I committed that through my portfolio, we will seek to find a way to mitigate the scourge of load shedding, more so for our indigent households, because I am committed to the Premier's energy plan for our province. I announced that we will seek to deliver 976 indigent households through our housing projects across our province with a solar geyser at an expense of 24 million rand. Honourable Speaker, I'm happy to convey to this House today that as of the 4th of December, 128 beneficiaries have already received their solar geysers. And the balance will be installed in the new year. And to ensure that it's done properly, I actually visited some of these sites. I've witnessed the joy and the difference that this intervention of this provincial government has made, which is why, as part of our adjustment, we will be ensuring that an additional 60 solar geysers are going to be installed, bringing the total cost of this intervention to 27.5 million rand. In terms of Program 5, Honourable Speaker, it is said that the more we can do to create a better society that benefits more people, the better the chances are that our society will continue to grow and prosper. That is Mr. Sanford Wheel. In this specific program, there's a rollover of 1.46 million rand, which has been allocated for local content tenders. But Honourable Speaker, to ensure that the money we spend in true empowerment, not ANC version of empowerment, is effective, we have what is called the Empowerment Impact Assessment Tool, which we use as a department to measure the potential empowerment of local communities in capital infrastructure projects that meet the financial threshold of 10 million rand or more. And in addition, this includes the maintenance infrastructure projects with a minimum planned construction duration of 12 consecutive calendar months. Because we do realize the importance of this program. But the key objectives of this program are to firstly drive transformation and procurement reform, to align departmental procurement policy with broad-based economic empowerment objectives, to increase employment locally, to stimulate economic growth, and to reduce the imbalances in access to economic opportunities. But don't take my word for it. And if any member of the opposition really are worth their salt, They can visit the Ashton High School. They can visit the Sierra Hospital Rehabilitation Project. They can visit the Alderburg Hospital Project. They can visit the Mvula Primary School in Yanga. They can visit the Nolingile Community Daycare Center inside C. Khayelitsha. Honorable Speaker, we are
Order,
also
members.
in the period of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And therefore, the child and youth care centers will receive a rollover of 7.6 million rand. Because we do realize these centers play a crucial role in the destitute communities by providing a safe, supportive, and nurturing environment for children and young people facing various challenges. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I began with a quote from the Dalai Lama, and I will conclude with a quote by His Holiness. He says, "Tragedy should be utilized as a source of strength. No matter what sort of difficulties, how painful the experience is, if we lose our hope, that's our real disaster." Honorable Speaker, as the Western Cape government, we will not be stopped to ensuring that we provide hope to our citizens in the Western Cape, even when we are confronted by unjustifiable financial constraints brought upon us by the ANC national government. In this province and in this department, we soldier on. Ons kap het nat, ons loop reguit vorentoe. We get things done, which is why the citizens of the Western Cape should not lose hope, because they can believe that they have a government that actually is there for them. We work for you. And at this stage, I would like to thank the acting HOD, my senior team present here with her, as well as my ministry under the leadership of the HOM, for ensuring that even under difficult times, the message of hope is focused upon, that we deliver on that which is our mandate. But above all, to all of the members of the Standing Committee who exercise their oversight effectively and diligently. The era that our country is embarking upon is going to be difficult. It asks for real leadership, leadership that provides hope. And that hope is through a government that cares for you. And I want to wish all of our citizens a very blessed festive season. But always remember, this DA-led provincial government, with this Premier's government for you. And come 2024, we will continue giving you that hope as we soldier on and move forward. I thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Before I recognize the next speaker, can I please ask for your indulgence when there's a member on the floor? Please do not drown out the speaker. There's running commentary throughout the minister's speech. I'm cautioning you. We have a long day ahead of us, and I please ask that you work with me. I now recognize the Honorable Maran.
Thanks, Speaker. The Honorable MEC did not mention once the construction mafia and 8 officials that appeared in court when 1 billion rand just disappeared. And we are not sure whether that 1 billion rand end up in the coffers of the DA to fight an elections campaign next year. So, and one of the councillors in the city of Cape Town responsible for human settlements were firstly fired and after resigned because of alleging making deals with gangsters. Secondly, Speaker, the MEC did not mention once the name of a lady with a disabled child called Cynthia Bless. Her subsidy have been approved, I think, 3 years back. And by the time it was approved, it was said that but all houses has been handed out when an application has been approved. 3 years later, she still haven't have house. She still don't have a house. And we hope, MEC, your commitment to make sure in this adjustment budget that Witzenberg, that particular municipality will build a house for Cynthia Bless and a disabled child. You did not once mention Transrex, where you promised that in the first phase you will build 2,000 houses. And almost 4 years later, you have only built 170. And when you hand over 170 at the beginning of this year, I think it was in March, when winter came, some of those walls collapsed. Roofs were blown off. This is what you gave to the poorest of the poor. So you mentioned the issue of rollovers. Why rollovers? Because all these municipalities that have received clean orders within the Western Cape, or most of them, could not spend their allocations. And you told us in a meeting that National Treasury, whilst you are applying for rollovers, National Treasury warned us that we will not roll over time and time over and over again. And when the Honorable Seleku spoke in that meeting, he blames the issue of capacity, that those municipalities have not capacity. And the question that came up is, what is this department doing to assist those municipalities to be capable to implement and to spend the grants that they are receiving from national government? And I agree with you when you say those municipalities, and most of them governed by the DA, don't have capacity and they don't know how to spend budgets. Speaker, and I'm going to speak about Silvertown and the postponement to upgrade that particular settlements, human settlements. I'm going to speak to that within. When we have dealt with the annual performance of the department, and we received that report, and you stood up in this house when I quoted from that fourth quarter report, said that I have misled this house. In terms of the figures that we gave, BNG, 6,213 opportunities, of which you've only built 3,672. Almost half of the houses that you haven't built in that particular program. Speaker, this budget has allocated 8.9 million to the MEC's office. MEC Summers is currently on the news for allegedly flouting rules of the ministerial handbook for claiming housing benefits while they owns property in the city of Cape Town. Serious allegations. While this department faces significant challenges it inhabits it from rendering quality service delivery, such as invasion of land, community unrest, and the prevalence of extortion and violent attacks on government officials on sites by the construction mafia, this budget has not made any allocation towards addressing these pressing challenges. Of course, it has been proven in a reasonable doubt that the DA started, sustained, and continues to fund the extortionists and construction mafia in the province, which we may explain why no provision has been made in the budget to tackle the problem and hands-on. In a previous sitting, the Honorable Christian stand up and he told us, he said, we know who these extortionists are. We know, but we refuse to act against them. And every time when we comes here, we want to complain and say police, 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 whilst we are making deals with those extortionists. Yeah. The over 73 million reallocated to try and solve MEC Summers' mess in the department could have been spent wisely to fund community-orientated initiatives to fight extortion and other crimes associated with the construction mafia. This 73 million is made up of 10 million reallocated to provide for staffing costs previously under human settlements, and 63.9 million received from the Department of Mobility for budget alignment and so-called refresh management arrangement. This clearly shows that the merger of the components of public works and human settlements to create this department is not yet completed. And officials are in this Department of Infrastructure are not happy. They are not happy about this particular merger. When the new department was created, there was a lot of unhappiness as senior managers were demoted and others rendered redundant. We are now reliably informed that many skilled workers, especially those in mid-management, do not have any jobs to do or don't know what their job descriptions are. I mean, a head of department, Jackie Goods, have now been found not capable of being a HOD, where she was a HOD for a number of years in public works. Two departments. When the new department was created, For instance, as workers who were attached to the PHP project have been rendered useless and spend their time at work streaming music or watching movies. This issue demands serious consideration as a close examination reveals a systematic attempt to turn this department into a lucrative venture for white construction companies while sidelining black emerging contractors who previously thrived on projects like the PHP. The department's substantial 9.6 billion budget appears poised to exclusively benefit white companies who in turn will contribute to the funding of the DA's elections campaign. Clearly, disturbingly, instances of this trend are already evident in ongoing projects, such as the construction at the low risk price high, where the expulsion of RC Civils, a well-established and experienced black-owned construction company, from the project occurred under questionable circumstances. In Mossel Bay, a company that built houses for the apartheid government has been awarded a lucrative contract against the wishes of the community members and stakeholders. And when we, as a committee, visit Mossel Bay, we could not give answers to those people in that particular meeting. En
Agbare Moran,
the
tyd is
chairperson,
verstreke. Sluit asseblief af.
and the chairperson deliberately stopped that meeting from continuing.
Thank you very much,
Speaker, the
Honourable Moran.
ANC
Please take your
therefore
seat. Thank you very much. The
can't
time has
support-
expired. I recognize the next person on the hybrid platform. I recognize the Honourable Klaas.
Thank you, Speaker, for your recognition. It is said that to see Provincial Department trusted with the Provincial of Housing and Public Works cutting its budget by more than 259.6 million, while the majority of our people in the province remain in a cholera condition, congested shacks, and other remaining homeless. It is also shocking for the human settlement budget to be cut by 212.1 million for the family reasons such as procurement delays, unable to flip beneficiaries for the subsidized and outstanding contractual claims. All this shows that the department does not have the capacity to execute its delivery mandate and to show that housing backlog is reduced. In the 2022-23 financial year, this department bragged about creating a mere 8,000 housing in the province, which also include the flip housing provinces, where applications are only partly subsidized from the block of close to 500,000 of people who are still on the housing waiting list. That is nothing but a drop of the ocean. Just the Monday, families were displaced in Nyanga, where about 30 shacks caught fires at the same time, owing their congested nature. And the this government failed those people in the past, and it's continued to fail them to this day. We are yet to hear about people of Kosovo and Danun who were promised in the high COVID 2019 in their congested informal settlement will be intensified, but to this, not much has been done. This cut budget could have assisted to make sure that our people residing in the central line are found alternative accommodation as matter of urgency so that they can stay in decent environments, and also to make sure that the trains continue to operate against that line in order to expand the
Thank you very
mode
much,
of
Honourable
public
Klaas. Your
transport.
time has expired. Please
million.
conclude.
Of our poor people in Khayelitsha and surrounding areas. For this reason, the EFF will not support this vote.
Thank you very much, Honourable Klaas. I now recognize the Honourable Seleko.
Mandibulele Somlomo.
Honourable Seleko, my apologies. Can I please ask the table staff to mute all microphones on the hybrid system? Thank you very much, Honourable Seleko.
Ndibulele Somlomo ngethuba onika lona. Okokuqala Somlomo, ukusuka kwami endlini namhlanje bendise emeni emnandi ekwasana goeie want dis 'n scarce seisoen. Ek het nie gedink ek gaan gedwing word om by sekere goed te reageer. Maar nou het my droom nou 'n nagmerrie geword. You know, to member Maran gepraat het was ek onder die indruk dat hy nou goeie goed gaan praat oor die spesifieke baba van die departement van infrastruktuur. Maar ongelukkig al die goeie dinge en al die goeie goed wat die departement getoon het,
Order, members.
alhoewel hierdie departement 'n baba is, en as daar baie goeie dinge wat die baba al bewys het dat hierdie baba 'n goeie kind gaan wees. En die tekens is daar, ons kyk in terme van die vloede, hoe hierdie baba die vloede hanteer het. You know, ek dink dit sat goed gewees het van lid Maran om 'n goeie buurman te wees en die nodige ondersteuning te gee aan die baba, nie 'n jaloerse buurman te wees nie, omdat hy nie 'n baba het nie. You know, ja,
Order, members. Honorable Seleko, please address me.
Okay, Speaker, and I would also want to say to the House that I am very glad to see that Member Maran and Member Kama through you were in the Boland. And I hope and pray that when they were in the Boland, sitting with some of the office bearers in some of our municipalities that are not capacitated in terms of assisting this particular department in the delivery of its targets, that they were able to address some of the issues that I'm going to mention. In one of the municipalities, you'll find that within the first 3 months of their budget, they were only able to spend 5.5% of their capital expenditure, as compared to the 25% envisaged in their budget. Secondly, what is of concern in that particular municipality is that in terms of contracted or contractual services and security, their expenditure within a period of 3 months stood at 44.6. Now you must look at the comparison. Infrastructure, 5.5. Contractual services and security, 44.6 within a period of 3 months. And also, you know, what is interesting in terms of what has been spent, 84% of that goes to the staff. Speaker, also what is important is that Honorable Maran speaks about the issue of capacity. And I want to correct him. When I raised this particular issue of capacity, I was actually trying to encourage him in his deliberations with his colleagues and friends that has been appointing temporary workers, specifically on human settlements departments, that they actually appoint people that are fit for purpose so that we are able to spend these rollovers in terms of title deeds. But remember, Maran, through you, Speaker, knows who those municipalities is. And what is also of disappointing, Speaker, is the fact that as much one would appreciate the EPW program, we are very disturbed that some of these EPWP employees are appointed by some of the colleagues of aligned to Member Maran and Member Kama, who I believe were in the by-election in Saldanha. I hope they got off days. You know, they actually lost, because I'm telling you now, even today, they are not at work. They are even not at work today. So it's because when they appoint them, they are not appointing them because they want to contribute to the performance of this particular department, but they appoint them for only one reason, and one reason only, to use them as food canvassers. Because they don't have money, they are bankrupt. So, Speaker, let me go to the speech. Honorable Speaker, today I stand before you with a heavy heart, compelled to address the daunting 259 million budget cut that comes as a result of the ill-fated public wage bill, signed into law by the national ANC government. This policy the ANC have implemented has cast massive budget shortfall in our province, casting a shadow over everything we do. However, in the face of difficulty, the Western Cape government, under the leadership of the Democratic Alliance, has risen to the occasion to mitigate the impact of these disastrous policies. This budget is not merely a financial statement. It fosters infrastructure-led growth and investment, paving the way for a brighter future for the residents of the Western Cape. 2.2 billion has been allocated to public works infrastructure. 4.4 billion has been allocated to transport infrastructure. 2.5 billion has been allocated to human settlements, and 71 million has been allocated to community-based programs. This budget has strategically reallocated resources to maximize the impact of every rand we have. The allocation of 4.5 million for solar installation on various buildings is a move towards sustainable energy solutions. Moreover, 21.8 million has been dedicated to title deed restoration by municipalities, securing property rights and empowering our citizens. 25.9 million has been earmarked for the electrification of various housing projects, providing basic amenities to those who need it most. In acknowledging the need for service delivery and energy performance, 55.7 million has been allocated, and an additional 42.4 million has been strategically allocated from the Provincial Equitable Share Reserve to acquire property that will be used for health and education purposes. Honorable Somlomo, the National Disaster Fund have seemingly deemed it not to allocate the funds to the province. I suppose we are being punished for being the only province that delivers services. No good deeds goes unpunished. Ons is nog steeds kort 800 miljoen to
Honorable
restore
Seleko,
the
please
roads
take your
network.
seat. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party, is that a point of order?
Member Winvogel heckled that jy weet mos jy leeg to member Seleko while he was speaking, and I would like to rule on the matter.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip. Honorable Winvogel, Honorable Winvogel, did order members, honorable members, Honorable Winvogel, Honorable Winvogel, did you refer to any member in this house? The Honorable
Speaker, no.
Honorable Winvogel did not refer to anyone in this house, and for that reason, I will, members, I will refer to Hansard and I will come back, but the honorable member has said that she had not referred to anyone in the house. Honorable Kama, is that a point of order?
No, I'm sorted.
Thank you very much. Honorable Seleko, you may continue.
Somlomo, let me repeat. The National Disaster Fund has seemingly deemed it for not to allocate the funds to the province. I suppose we are being punished for being the only province that delivers services. No good deeds goes unpunished. We still need 800 million to restore roads network following floods. This budget makes the best of a disastrous situation. The Democratic Alliance supports this budget, and I implore the opposition parties to also support this budget, like they supported our recommendation to not support the expropriation bill. Baie dankie. Thank you very much.
Baie dankie, agbare Seleko. I recognize the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister. Minister Summers, for the record. Order, members.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I think first let me thank all the comments or speeches based on our adjustment budget we have tabled. And in terms of the Honorable Member Maran, who hammered on the Cape Town matter, last time I checked, you were a member of the legislature, you were not a member of the City of Cape Town Council. In terms of Cynthia Best,
Order.
Again, Honorable Speaker.
Order. Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable members on my left-hand side, there was an input made to the minister. The minister is now responding. Can I please ask that you do not drown out the speaker on the floor and allow the minister to give his response to the inputs made during this debate? Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Honorable Speaker, again, in terms of Ms. Cynthia in Bitzenberg again. Yes, Cynthia Bliss, who will be blessed very soon. The issue there was ESCOM in its capacity. Number one. Number two is an incorrect form. That will be addressed. Member keeps on hammering on transects. That has been addressed, but just a correction. It's 190 units, not 170. Lees jou boekerecht. In terms of rollovers, again, I need to clarify, Honorable Speaker, I was referring to title deed funds, which was the issue of rollover. Again, the member needs to provide context. Extortion allegations. The last time I checked, I'm the Department of Infrastructure. I'm not SAPS, which is failing. What we are doing is trying to address a matter. It's not my mandate. And extortion is a criminal offense. It's a criminal matter. Then, Honorable Speaker, I do want to thank Member Saleko for his inputs, but I do want to, in closing, just give two quotes. And this one, Honorable Speaker, through you, is to those who still portray themselves as the liberators of our country. And this is more relevant today than ever. And Johnny Clegg in his song, and I'm quoting, "The revolution will eat its children," and I need to rephrase that. The liberators of this country who still think they are liberators are eating their own children. And these budget cuts are a clear sign of that. But there's also hope, Honorable Chair, in terms of a poem by C. Louis Leipold. En die dag se naam is die einde, and I will read a pertinent component of that poem. Moed, mense, hou moed. Die kwaad sal verander in goed. Die morgenlig kom uit die duisternis. And to the Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Ons inwoners van die Weskaap moet moed hou. Maar één ding is verseker, as die ANC dink gisteraand was hulle wakker geklap. Wag vir 2024, julle gaan aan die slaap geklap word. Baie dankie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much, Honorable Members. That concludes the debate of this vote. Before the Secretary reads the next order of the day, I will allow the officials to just swap around if there is. Honorable Members, just for your indulgence, both parties have agreed, or members have agreed, that we will continue with the next vote before we break for lunch. Can I just get an indication, Minister, if we are expecting the officials from the department? Minister Bradell, are we expecting the officials, or can we continue? Thank you very much. I will now ask the Secretary to read the fourth order of the day.
Debate on vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Bradell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning sees its original budget of 606 million rand for the 2023-2024 financial year adjusted downwards to 588 million rand. This adjustment budget comes at a time when South Africa's government's finances are at an all-time low. The reason for this sad situation is because the ANC national government cannot work with money. It comes as no surprise that the ANC, the once globally veteran struggle organization, is now also bankrupt and cannot even pay election posters of 2019. Honourable Speaker, life goes on, and in the Western Cape, the provincial government will continue to provide the best possible services to our citizens with the money available to us. I want to repeat what I've said many times before. We need a new financial system for government in South Africa. The current system, where our national government provides for itself before distributing what is left to the provinces and local government, cannot continue. Honourable Speaker, there is currently no incentive for our national government to introduce austerity measures on itself. That is why an increased wage bill can be negotiated nationally, and then the cost increases are simply passed on to provinces without making money available to implement it. Speaker, in essence, the Western Cape, which has for more than a decade now been fanatically in managing public funds as efficiently as possible, is now being punished the hardest, as there is no fat to cut. Speaker, this is also the case of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, as well as our conservation agency, Cape Nature. This department has, over the last number of years, absorbed reduced budgets to the point where it is now at risk not being able to deliver on its core mandate on service delivery areas. Several of our programs will see a budget reduction. For example, our Waste Management Directorate sees a reduction of 2.4 million rand. Our housing market study project is cut by 946,000 rand. Topographical surveys at selected municipal landfill sites seen a reduction of 255,000 rand. Speaker, all these projects and programs are essential and of critical importance if we are to manage and balance environmental protection with economic development in our province. However, it is during difficult times such as these that the value of competent, qualified and motivated staff becomes clear. Thank you to the officials who will now go back to the drawing board and figure out how to keep on delivering with the reduced budgets. Speaker, despite the financial challenges, the department continues to deliver. The department leads and coordinates and mainstreaming the climate change throughout the provincial government. The department welcomes the shifting of the Green Economy Ecosystem Support Project from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. This comes with a 4 million rand allocation. Cape Nature sees its original 2023-2024 provincial infrastructure payments revised from 42 million to 32 million. This reduction comes at a bad time for Cape Nature, as it was hit by the flooding the province experienced this winter. Cape Nature had to close several of its reserves because of the floods. This resulted in closure of facilities and cancellations of bookings across Cape Nature facilities. In response to addressing flood damage, Cape Nature reallocated financial resources from the current financial year for floods and storm water damage mitigation. Several projects were deferred to the 24-25 financial year to provide budget for selected nature reserves to ensure the income-generated facilities are open for the coming holiday season. Cape Nature will once again play a leading role in the wildfire management and support system this summer as the custodian of 1 million hectare conservation estate, which includes many of our water catchment areas. Their work is extremely important and deserves our support. Honourable Speaker, allow me to thank the management team of both the Department of Cape Nature and the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, who are executing on their mandate despite severe budget pressure. Running an organisation when there are ample funds can be very easy. Doing it with shoestring budgets show character and dedication. And for that, I honor you and I thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognize the Honourable Maran.
Thanks again very much, Speaker. The MEC said that the ANC, the national government can't work with money. What the MEC actually wanted to say is that black people can't work with money. This is what he actually wants to say. Yes.
Order.
The ANC that the MEC is referring to, the DA leader John Steenhuisen's chairperson said he would love to be in a cabinet of Cyril Ramaphosa, who's leading the ANC, president of the ANC. The same DA in the ANC that the DA is speaking bad about is speaking at this moment with the ANC to be part of a coalition government if the ANC falls below 50%.
Order. Order, members. Members. Order.
Clearly.
Order.
It is clearly listening to the response from that side. They don't agree with the national leader, Speaker.
Honourable Maran, please take your seat. Honourable members. Honourable members. There's a member on the floor. Honourable Premier, is that a point of order?
No, Speaker, I'm wondering.
Why are you rising, Premier?
I'm asking whether the honourable member would take a question.
Okay. Honourable Maran, the Premier is asking if you're prepared to take a question.
Speaker, I don't have time to waste.
Honourable Premier,
Speaker.
Honourable Maran, before you proceed, for the record, Premier, the Honourable member is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Maran, you may continue.
The Premier can put his question in writing. Speaker, yeah, when the ANC partook in the debate on the main appropriation in March, we reminded the House that the ANC took climate change so seriously that it identified the district development model as one of the mechanisms in which government at various spheres uses to address the challenge of climate change. We found it unfortunate then, as we find it unfortunate now, that the DA always tries to package national government's initiatives by another name. So instead of implementing DDM, the DA-led Western Cape government came up with its own name. It is also a pity, therefore, that the Western Cape government chooses to declare an intergovernmental dispute instead of working with the national government during this time of fiscal crisis. We raise this because the question of the cost of employment in the budget remains a deep concern, despite the public sector wage agreement. Posts are simply not being filled. And this particular department that we are now engaging on initially budgeted for 288 posts. They reduce it to 80. They're only going to fill 11 by their own admission. Annually, posts are not filled in the department, even before the budget cuts, because of, and they said, the Premier's department are not capable to filling or dealing with the issue of filling posts. And it's still the case. Since when we came into this term up till now, the Premier's department is failing to deal with the issue of vacancies. Over 3 million is now to be prioritized, simply because of these posts were not filled before the announcement of the freezing of posts. The ANC remains concerned that a whopping 49,000 is spent on advertising for the Sandveld environmental management. With such tight budget and with cuts to funding, it's unbelievable that nearly 50,000 is spent on advertising. The ANC also rejects budgeting 270,000 rand for litigation cost. Again, we reiterate that if an environmental commissioner exists, the cost of litigation will be considerably cut. It clearly shows you that the DA don't respect their own constitution. Yet the people of the Western Cape are left waiting for the DA to acknowledge its embarrassment in the face of the rejection of the amendment to the provincial constitution. The ANC continues to advocate because the Premier followed a public participation process and there was a resounding yes that we want the environmental commissioner. The Premier on its own decided, I'm not going to listen to the people. In the last week, data from the City of Cape Town's website showed that the water qualified, and the same thing will happen with the Provincial Powers Bill. It will explode in your face. In the last week, data from the City of Cape Town's website showed that the water quality of the number of cities' most popular beaches is no better than that of Durban's water quality. The provincial government always bragged that it is better than the rest of South Africa. Well, the data from the City of Cape Town on the water quality of the city says its beaches stinks. It stinks. As we approach the summer season, where thousands, if not millions, of local international tourists will be visiting our beaches, entitled pools, Fishu, Strandfontein, Hout Bay, and Camps Bay, tidal pools has been found to have low water quality. High bacteria is found in Central Falls Bay, Lagoon Beach in Milnerton, Makassar, the Gordons Bay, as well as 3 Anchor Bay on the Atlantic seaboard. But we cannot help to notice the difference, for example, between the water quality in the Camps Bay tidal pool, which is terrible, and which is used mainly by poorer people coming from Camps Bay, whereas Camps Bay Beach itself, despite its short distance from the pool, is classified as a blue flag stated beach by the Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa. However, all this environmental disasters is not caused by climate change, nor is it a natural disaster. This environmental disaster is man-made and caused by the DA-led City of Cape Town and the continuous refusal to take the serious problem seriously. As the residents of Milnerton, ask the residents of Stellenbosch, ask the residents of Milnerton, ask the residents of Stellenbosch. They have been victims of municipalities which are hell-bent ignoring horseshoe rates. Among others, the ANC rejected the main appropriation for this budget, a vote in March precisely because even before these budget cuts came from national government, the DA-led provincial government cut the budget of coastline management in this department by 7%. Speaker, according to the adjustment appropriation for this budget vote, R500,000 rands will be realized simply because the project scope for 23, 24 of the green economy waste tripreneurs was not finalized, a failure of the MEC themselves. This is completely unacceptable, and therefore, Speaker, the ANC rejects to support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maran. I recognize Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Agbare Speaker, teen hierdie tyd weet al die lede deeglik dat daar van provinsies en munisipaliteite verwag word om die gordel stywer te trek. En dit lyk onwaarskynlik dat hierdie provinsie se begroting in die afsienbare toekoms weer sal toeneem teen dieselfde tempo as wat mense na die Wes-Kaap stroom, of dat daardie begroting in lyn met die inflasiekoers aangepas sal word. Ek glo al die lede van hierdie huis dra ons provinsie en sy inwoners se beste belange op die hart. Dit is immers wat in die aanhef van die Wes-Kaapse grondwet beoog word met die woorde, en ek haal aan, ons strewe om die ontwikkeling van die Wes-Kaap en 'n beter lewensgehalte vir al sy inwoners deur regverdige en doeltreffende regering te bevorder. Dit word van ons almal, en daarmee bedoel ek lede aan beide kante van die huis, verwag om in die beste belang van die Wes-Kaap op te tree. En dit is omdat hierdie provinsiale regering die beste belang van ons inwoners op die hart dra, dat ons tans in 'n interregeringsdispuut met die nasionale vergadering, met die nasionale regering gewikkel is. Daarom hoop ek dat diegene in hierdie huis wat tot dusver teen die versoeke van die Wes-Kaap vir 'n groter begroting gekant was, hulle standpunt gou sal heroorweeg en dat hulle voortaan in lyn met die provinsiale grondwet se vereistes sal optree. Die gedagte van 'n provinsiale grondwet is natuurlik vir die ANC 'n vreemde konsep. Daar's nog nie een van die ander 8 provinsies wat hulle hand gewaag het aan so 'n dokument nie. Ons het amper 5 jaar gelede in hierdie lokaal trou gesweer en ek haal uit die eed aan, ek beloof plegtig om my funksie as 'n lid van die provinsiale parlement na my beste vermoë te verrig. Einde van aanhaling. Na my oordeel beteken dit onder andere dat lede van die parlement hulle huiswerk sal doen en dat hulle nie valse inligting wat die provinsiale regering ondergrawe daarbuite sal versprei nie. Maar dit geld kennelik nie vir die ANC caucus hier oorkant my nie. Speaker, nie net dat die ANC as politieke party geldelike probleme weens wanbestuur nie. Nie dit word provinsies insluitende die vinnig groeiende Wes-Kaap nou nadelig geaffekteer weens ANC wanbestuur nie. Uiteindelik is dit mense, broodwinners en daarom gesinne wat weens hierdie wanbestuur ly. En soos wat ek later sal aandui, is dit veral die armstes in die provinsie wat die swaarste gedeur hierdie besparings getref word. In die proses verwag ek dat ons almal groot erns sal maak met die slegte situasie waarin ons bevind. Maar ons het verlede week gesien, die ANC is nie net geldelik bankrot nie, hulle is moreel bankrot. En wat doen mense wat in 'n hoek is? Hulle begin lieg. En ek wil graag hê die ANC-lede moet 'n slag opkyk van hulle selfone en net bietjie kyk na hulle eie grafika wat hulle verlede week versprei het. Verlede week is hierdie grafika onder die naam van die ANC caucus, met ander woorde in die naam van hulle wat hier oorkant my sit versprei. Die grafika sê, en ek haal aan, did you know, DA led Western Cape government's alarming failure. Out of 280 funded.
Order members. Order members. Honorable members. Honorable Van der Westhuizen, please take your seat. Honorable members, you cannot, if you want to bring any improper behavior of any member of this House to the attention of the House, there is parliamentary rules and mechanisms to do so. Until such point, it is unparliamentary to refer to any member, to any member. So they use the mechanisms at your disposal. If otherwise, I will rule that out of order. Honorable Van der Westhuizen, you may continue.
Thank you, Chair. Clearly, they're embarrassed by these lies. They thought they could just get by. Did you know DA led Western Cape government's alarming failure? Out of 280 funded posts in the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, the DA led Western Cape government will only fill 11 posts for this year. Voorsitter, hulle lieg. Voorsitter, dit is 'n leuen. Uit 280 onbefondste poste sal hier 11 poste gevul word. Kritieke poste. Dit is 'n leuen en hierdie leuen sou deur 'n eenvoudige bietjie huiswerk, 'n eenvoudige oproep na die kantoor van die hoof van die departement uitgewys kon word. Dit beteken die organogram erken al vir jare dat daar nie genoeg geld is vir hierdie departement om al die poste waaroor hierdie departement behoort te beskik te befonds nie. Maar die DA-regering is verantwoordelik. Ons stel slegs mense aan in poste as ons weet dat daar geld vir daardie poste is. En ons weet dat hierdie leuns van die ANC gaan net erger word hoe nader ons na volgende jaar se verkiesing toe kom. Ek wil aan my ANC-kollegas sê, skaam julle om tot op daardie vlak te daal. Speaker, after the disastrous flooding the province has seen this year on 2 separate occasions, there can be no doubt that
Honorable Van der Westhuizen, please take your seat. Honorable Chief Whip, is there a point of order?
Yes, Speaker. It cannot be that a member of this House calls another member a diff, and that is member Van Vogel.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy. Thank you, Chief Whip. Honorable Van Vogel, can I please address you? Can you please stand while I address you? Honorable Van Vogel, did you refer to any member of this House as a diff? Order members, there's a member on the floor.
Speaker, it was public knowledge. It was in the newspaper.
Honorable Van Vogel, I'm not asking you to justify it yet. I'm asking, did you refer to any member of this House as a
No,
diff?
Chair.
The Honorable Van Vogel, order members, the Honorable Van Vogel, order members, the Honorable Van Vogel was given an opportunity. The Honorable Van Vogel said no. I will refer to Hansard and I will come back to the House. Honorable Van der Westhuizen, you may continue. Honorable Van der Westhuizen, please take your seat. Honorable Kama, what is that a point of order?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
What is your point of order?
I'm getting the member when he was addressing the House through you. He even went to a point of saying, shame on you, my colleagues in the ANC, that you had to stoop so low and lie. I believe that is out of order. If he is referring to us who are here in this house, so I would like you, Speaker, to check if he is referring to any specific member in this house that we are liars. Thank you very much.
I will certainly do so. I'll consult Hansard, but just for the record, and if political parties, you can refer to broadly. It has always been the custom and always been the rules in this house. What I am going to do is I'll check Hansard and see if there was a direct referral to any member in this house. Honorable
Can I'm not challenging your ruling, Speaker, but if you can just clarify me, because the approach you are taking on member Van der Westhuizen is different to that you took, because he is here and you could simply ask him if he referred to any member of this house, because I heard him talking about his colleagues, not the party, but his colleagues from the ANC, and he's using the ANC to distinguish from the colleagues that are here, that not those ones, but these particular ones. So I thought that you were going to really check with him if he's referring to any of us here in the house. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kama. Can I just also, just for the record, members, there's no need to justify your points of orders or clarify your points of orders, and the ruling has already been made. The outcome of the two rulings are exactly the same. I'm going to refer to Hansard and come back, but your point is noted. Honorable Van der Westhuizen, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a point of order, I think there's a long-standing convention that no member cross the line between the speaker and somebody that's on the floor. And I think it would be good for the honourable member to take note of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van der Westhuizen. You may continue.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just to
order members.
Just to clarify, I will repeat. Maar dan, die ANC sukkel so om iets te kry waarmee die DA-geleide regering kan kritiseer, dat hulle tot leuns wend. En ons weet uit ondervinding dat dit net erger sal word soos wat ons nader na die volgende verkiesing kom. Skaam julle. Speaker, after the disastrous flooding the province has seen this year on two separate occasions, there can be no doubt that the effects of climate change are intensifying. We must expect more regular disasters, and we must take action to ensure we protect our environment and our natural heritage. That is why this vote is of utmost importance and why the Department of Environmental Affairs must be properly capacitated. They do the work that is often unseen, but that does not make it any less important. Environmental impact assessments, air quality management, and nature conservation are not often headline-grabbing activities, but they are crucial nonetheless. If we do not stand up and take responsibility for the protection of our environment on a collective scale, there will be nothing left for our children and the next generation, and they will face even greater hardship in the diminishing availability of natural resources. In the Western Cape, we are blessed with picturesque natural heritage, and Cape Nature does outstanding work in safeguarding and conserving this through their reserves. Their rangers are actively in work with other law enforcement agencies to ensure that poachers who seek to use our shared natural resources for their own gain are brought to justice. This is crucial work and it must be continued and supported. The importance of this department should now be clear to all. I don't think any member of this House on either side of the aisle will dispute that we are all dependent on our environment and natural resources for survival, and that we should take the utmost care in protecting it. This vote has, however, been another victim of the budget cuts imposed by the ANC national government. The budget for this department has seen an in-year cut of almost 19 million rand. Contained within that is a 13 million cut to the budget of Cape Nature. Ironically, it is the national allocation for expanded public works project workers that have been cut. Again, it shows that the ANC does not feel an inch for the poor. The Honourable Dugmore goes on about the civil servants that require a livable wage and about minimum wages. Yet he is quiet about the job losses. He is quiet about the poor, unemployed in our deep rural areas, for whom the training and stipend from the EPWP work programs are so important. The direct result of the public wage agreement that the ANC centrally agreed to have cost these people, mostly young people, who were hoping for an opportunity to learn and to show what they are capable of, their dreams. The Western Cape government has had to make difficult choices and has taken the necessary step of shielding education, health, and social development from the bulk of cuts by cutting costs elsewhere, including in this department. On the note of the two disasters that have caused considerable damage to infrastructure in this province, as well as in our Cape Nature reserves, it is worth mentioning that the Western Cape applied to have the flooding declared a provincial disaster. This application was successful, and yet we will not be receiving any disaster recovery funding because that money has been squandered by the ANC and their reckless policies. And this is where the real impact of the ANC's recklessness is really apparent. In an election year, when the pressure from unions was on and tough decisions had to be made, the ANC showed a remarkable failure of leadership. The ANC is more concerned about the 55,000 civil servants, and this excludes the thousands working for state entities that earn more than 1 million rand per annum, than about the poor and the unemployed. They agreed to a wage bill they cannot afford, and now the price will be paid through cuts to critical programs. They have no foresight. They have no leadership. They have no skill. And as the lies have shown, they have no conscience. It is time that South Africans stand up for themselves and their families, for the poor and marginalized, for the environment, for their own well-being, and vote the ANC out come 2024. I support this budget because while the tough decisions had to be made, they were made by this government with an eye towards the future. We cannot mortgage the future to serve our own interests. This is not real leadership. The Western Cape will continue to make every cent work for the people of this province, and we have the record of clean governance that proves this. I shudder to think of what will happen in provinces that do not. I'm therefore grateful to inform this House that the Standing Committee, having deliberated on the adjustments, recommend to the House to support the budget and its report. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable van der Westhuizen. I recognise Honourable Minister Bredell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable members. Yeah, Honourable Speaker, to be honest with you, the only reason we talk about budget cuts, it's because of an incompetent and corrupt ANC national government. That's the only reason. And instead of owing up, they now want to play a race card because that's the only card they've got left. But you know, South Africans are intelligent human beings. And we can just look what has happened yesterday in Saldanha Bay, where they couldn't get the vote. So South Africans know this. And South Africa knows
members.
This. And at the end of the day, South Africans will vote them out. Honourable Chair, it's a pity that as soon as people leave the ANC, they start to talk the truth. You can just read the newspapers and News 24, where a veteran ANC member who left now said that it was because the ANC was wrecked by corruption. And that's the honest truth. The DDM model is just another model to corrupt the cadres even more. And therefore, we will not go with that. If you understand spheres of government, you will understand that no other sphere of government can rule over another sphere of government. There's a lot, and that's our model, Honourable Speaker, through you to the Honourable Dagmore. Our model is built on collaboration, joint planning and joint budgeting, and that you can get through a competent team working through the IDP process. You don't need to create new structures, new systems, because there's nowhere in this country, and we talk to the national government, where the DDM model works. But Honourable Chair, to the Honourable Andrikas, thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, for supporting the budget. Thank you for working with us during the year, keeping an eye on us. There's one thing that I do differ, en dit is waar u sê, agbare voorsitter, dat al die lede in hierdie huis dra die Weskaap inwoners op hulle hart. Ek dink dit is net hierdie kant en die ander partye, want dit is definitief nie die ANC wat die inwoners op die hart dra nie. Die ANC inherent glo om mense in armoede te hou hulle afhanklik en dan dink hulle sal die mense vir hulle stem. Die mense is slim, agbare Speaker, en die mense sal 2024 soos gister in Saldanha met die ANC handel. Baie dankie, agbare Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, honourable members. That concludes the debate on this vote. Proceedings will now be suspended. Honourable Dagmore, is that?
We not do the next vote as well.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, unfortunately not. Proceedings will now be suspended and we will resume at 2 o'clock as anticipated. The House is there.